6E03,
Here.
6E04,
Here.
6E05,
We don't see Patrick yet.
okay, 6E06,
Here.
6E07,
Here.
All right, great. So welcome anyone. Let me show you the agenda here. Okay, can everyone see that? All right, so the only thing that was added on, commissioners, you got an email this afternoon, was about the potential resolution concerning the U.S. Capitol fencing. I put that at the bottom there. So any other concerns or questions from the commissioners about this? Any additions? No? Okay. Do I have a motion to approve the agenda?
So moved.
Okay, any questions about the motion? Do you have a second?
second,
Okay, Alex Lopez seconds. All right, great. Okay, so now we're going to start with the police reports. Do I have from 1D Lieutenant Alderman? Lieutenant Alderman, if you're in the room, I need you to press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. 1D. Is anyone in the room from 1D? Oh, there you are. All right, Lieutenant. Lieutenant, you have to unmute yourself. Lieutenant?
Yes. Can everybody hear me?
Yep, go ahead.
Hi. Okay. Well, I'm happy to be talking to everybody about 1D. A couple different categories that I'd like to go over. The main category, obviously, that the whole city's talking about are stolen autos. And 1D is no different regarding stolen autos. There's been a tremendous increase, generally speaking. However, we do have some good news. In the last 30 days, we've seen a significant decrease in stolen autos. Basically, it's more than 57% decrease from the last 30 days. So that's some good news. The other numbers are, for the most part, the same. Violent crime is low. Stolen autos are an issue as in addition to theft from autos. Ironically, although the stolen autos are up, theft from autos are a little bit down. So instead of stealing stuff from the car, they just decide to take the car. Other property crimes, for the most part, aren't an issue. The numbers are pretty much stagnant. Thefts are pretty much the same pattern as they have been. And violent crime is low in our little sliver of 1D and in ANC 6E. Some of the trends that we see are hopefully the stolen autos will keep decreasing as our officers are being very proactive, and there's task forces as well within this department in order to bring our stolen autos down.
Okay.
Hello?
Yep, we hear you.
Okay. So like I said, the big I'm not going to harp on it. The big topic is stolen autos, and we really need to get the word out for folks to make sure that they're not, they don't have their vehicles idling. A lot of these vehicles are delivery drivers, and often is the case that they'll jump out and someone else will jump in. Most of them are non-violent, and most of them are non-confrontational. Most of them are hop-ins. And the big deterrence is obviously not leaving your vehicle running, to get the word out to everyone and make sure that their vehicles are not idling, that they not only take the key out of the ignition, but they actually shut the doors and lock the doors. And that will be a big deterrence in bringing these numbers down. As this pandemic gets more under control, we anticipate to see less stolen autos just because there will be less deliveries and probably more people out walking around like they were a year ago, and that's a deterrent in and of itself. Does anyone have any questions?
Commissioners, do you have any questions for the lieutenant? It's for 1D. Kevin, Denise?
No.
Denise?
No, no question.
And Patrick, I don't think he was gonna call in. I don't see his number. Okay. All right, so let me open up to the community. This is for the area that is south of New York Avenue, to talk to the lieutenant about any concerns. Use the raise your hand feature or press *9 if you're on the phone. For 1D. No? Well, Lieutenant, you got off easy tonight. I don't see, you have no questions.
That is excellent. It looks like we're doing a good job then, right? So that's great to hear. If anyone does have any questions, feel free to reach out to myself, and obviously I will hopefully talk to you guys again in a few weeks when we have the next meeting.
Okay, great, Lieutenant. Thank you.
Thanks so much.
For
Take
zooming
care.
in. Okay, so I did, Lieutenant Day, is that you?
That is me.
Hi, this is for 3D. Go ahead, Lieutenant.
All right, I'm gonna try to keep it brief on the watch planner tonight. So just to give you guys a heads up, within the last 30 days, we had 3 violent crimes. That was an ADW gun over at 607 P Street, and then we had 2 robberies occur in our area. So we have made significant arrests though, especially along 6 unit block of O Street. Last 2 weeks, we made several drug arrests, along with our what's called our NEU unit, and that's our narcotics unit, has been in that area doing a lot of enforcement. I did want to do a brief update about 1300 block of 9th Street. There was a press release on last month, around January 6th, we had a homicide, 1300 block of 9th Street. I know that still carries the area of 6E, I believe. And last 2 days, we made arrests on those. So we arrested 18-year-old Sean Howard and 18-year-old Shaquille Bynum for those arrests. So those are closed.
Great.
All right. If anyone has any questions for me, I can always be reached at my email, michael.daee@dc.gov. I also want to stress our camera rebate program. You can find that online under mpdc.dc.gov for more information. And our camera rebate program reimburses citizens to set up cameras in their area, and that gives us a lot more tools to use when we have cameras on the block and we see crimes occurring. That way we can reach out to them, citizens, to see if we can watch their cameras. The other thing I want to talk about is our text tip line. If you have any citizen wants to offer any anonymous tips, you can call you can text 50411 to provide your tips, as well as call our Command Information Center, 202-727-9099.
Okay, great. Thank you, Lieutenant. So I just like you to pay particular attention to the Paradise Garden complex. I know I think you were part of that email last week.
Correct. And I believe Captain Augustine's been working with that as well.
Okay. I don't know if you're able to reach out to Mr. Peter Park. No, maybe. Okay. If you could just pay attention to that area, and of course, all my area.
Right.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions for Lieutenant for 3D?
We've been having a lot more car break-ins on 6th Street. I talked to a neighbor today, and she actually changed her cars because her van kept getting broken into. And this is not normal for 6th Street. My car got broken into a couple of weeks ago. Nothing was really stolen, but it was broken into. And I'm just wondering, where is this traffic coming from?
So if the traffic, you're talking about car breaks from 6th Street, where,
Yeah.
you're asking where the traffic's coming from, the foot
Right.
traffic?
As far as the activity, where's the activity originating from? Where are these people coming from? Because it's not normal for us to have a lot of car break-ins on the 6th Street corridor.
Well,
Not to
I've
my
know,
knowledge, anyway.
I know 5th Street has had a lot of car break-ins, and 6th Street, actually, I believe I was talking to Commissioner Niger about this. It was like a few months ago. We did a lot of enforcement over on 6th and, what was that, 6th and N Street and 6th and M, if I'm not
Okay.
mistaken. And we did, because I was getting concerns about car break-ins in that location. So it's been an ongoing problem. And we're
Mm.
trying to address it. Unfortunately, car break-ins are crimes of opportunity, and our units are in the area, but crimes of opportunity, they're gonna commit the car break-ins when the officer's around handling another call or around the corner or somewhere else.
There's also a suburban truck parked on the 1200 block of 6th Street. It's been there for several months. In the exact same space.
Suburban truck, 600 block, 1200 block of 6th Street. Do you know the
Yep.
color of it?
It's black.
Black. Do you by chance know the tag number?
I do not, but it's been sitting there for months. It has not moved.
I'll have an officer check it out tonight.
Please.
All right.
You know, Frank, let me interject real quick. I'm now an abandoned car expert, unfortunately. So
don't know.
I'll send you the official parameters for DPW,
Okay.
and maybe that car fits into those parameters.
Okay.
I know several of they have to, for us to issue it as a abandoned vehicle, it has to fit 3 of the criteria for those parameters. And I'm sure Commissioner Niger will share that with you.
It's something else, let me tell you.
Mm.
Yeah.
So what happens if somebody's living in the truck rather than being abandoned?
That's something, it's just documentation. We have to determine what kind of, the state of the vehicle.
Okay.
Okay, any other commissioners have a question for the lieutenant?
Nope. Okay.
Okay, so let me open up to the community. Ed and Marcus, hold on. 1 second. So Ed and Marcus, unmute that telephone number that just came in, 79973, that's Patrick. Okay, 1 second here. Okay, all right, any questions from the community for the lieutenant? This is 3D, this is the area that is above New York Avenue. Use press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. Any questions?
Yep.
All right. No questions. All right, Lieutenant.
Yeah.
All right. Have a good night.
Okay, thank you.
Bye.
All right, so next on the agenda, we have Director Linda Harper. She is the very new Director of Gun Violence. And Director Harper, can you raise your hand or press *9? Director Harper, there she is. Director Harper?
Can you hear me? Yes,
We
can you hear me?
can.
Great. Thank you for having me. Thank you so much for the opportunity to speak to to speak to this community. I'm Linda Hartley Harper. I'm the newly appointed Gun Prevention Violence Director in the district. It's the first time that the district has had this position, and I was appointed to lead and champion the work of the collaboration and coordination of our city's efforts in combating the epidemic of gun violence. This is a personal charge for me as a native and resident Washingtonian and a product of DC Public Schools and UDC and Trinity University. I have witnessed multiple shootings and I've lost many friends. And I've been doing work with court-involved young people for most of my career. Most recently serving as Senior Deputy Director at the Department of Youth Rehabilitation Services, which is DYRS. I've experienced the loss of too many promising, gifted, and talented young people that I was emotionally connected to and invested in. Some of them were on a positive trajectory and some were involved in active illegal behavior, but they all deserve to be with us here right now, and they are not. My role is to coordinate the district services, and I'm sure, as many of you all know, that navigating the district government is not always an easy task. And so this position was placed in the office of the city administrator to provide the support to the building blocks office to carry out the roles and responsibilities of building blocks, which is coordinating the efforts. It is a three-prong approach that is focus people, focus places, and the process. And so there's been an emergency operations center that has been stood up, very similar to the COVID EOC. And the city realized a lot of success with coordinating city services by setting up an emergency operations center. The Emergency Operations Center and emergency management is new to me. I'm really a social services delivery person in my background, but what I've learned is that it's really a structure that allows for everyone to be focused on a single mission. What we know about in the district is that although violent crimes are going down, we know that gun crimes are going up. We know that a very small number of people are committing the crimes in our city, and we intend to focus on those people to offer services and supports and opportunities. When I say focus people, I mean persons who have been identified as possible perpetrators of gun violence or at high risk of being a victim of gun violence. And we also have focus communities that there's been a data-driven approach to identify the blocks in the city that are the most violent and that have the most needs. And we are starting there, we are starting there with coordinating and resources, connecting with communities, engaging with communities to find out what their needs are, and to help communities to co-create public safety in their environments. The position, I've been in the position for 1 month. So we haven't, fully launched. Everything is not off the ground yet. We are developing a lot of different communities. And definitely I am in a listening stance. So I want to offer that I have set up a website. Not a website, I'm sorry. A website's coming, but I've set up an email address to allow the community to provide feedback and suggestions about the approach to gun violence and any suggestions that may be offered. I have already received some very creative and innovative ideas, and I certainly don't sit here saying I have the solution to gun violence. I believe that the solution is in the communities, and I want to support those communities with addressing their needs. The website, the email address, I'm sorry, again, the email address is buildingblocks@dc.gov. So it's BUILDING, and then it's blocks, plural, @dc.gov. And so I encourage residents and anyone that's interested to submit any suggestions that you may have while we are finalizing our approach to our huge mission that we have in front of us. So if there are any questions, I'm happy to take it. Thank you for the opportunity, and I'm happy to come back and offer an update on the progress.
Well, we were so pleased that you can join us, Director. Actually, I have one question. I'll open up to the other commissioners and then I'll open to the community. So if you could just bullet point for me, because I think it's, it sounds great, but what's the difference between the ones organization and what your group's going to do?
Yeah, that's a very common question that we got. So Director McFadden and I work hand in hand. Essentially, I guess the easiest way to explain it is to say that the one's office is in engagement with many of the population that we are seeking to address, but oftentimes their needs are, in trying to address their needs, they face roadblocks and barriers to navigating the city's services. And so in partnership with Building Blocks, we are going to be able to remove those barriers to provide services and supports and opportunities, and to be able to expand the ability for the one's office to meet the needs of the population that they're serving.
Great, great. Commissioners, do you have any questions for Director Harper?
Hi, Director Harper. This is Alex Lopez. I just wanted to thank you, echo our chair's sentiments, and thank you for coming to our ANC meeting. I think that violent crime, gun crime in the district for too long has been addressed purely through a policing approach. And we know that policing is not very effective in preventing gun violence. And I'm extremely happy that the mayor has set up this emergency operations center with you as director, and that you will be taking a public health approach to curbing gun violence in the district. And I just want to wish you the best with your pilot in Anacostia, and hope that with the success that you see there, that you could branch up to our neck of the woods, because we do have some areas that have gun violence problems as well, as I'm sure you're aware.
Yes,
And,
absolutely.
and definitely let us know how the ANC could be of assistance.
Thank you for that. And, you know, I want to say that I was very encouraged by the appointment of Chief Conti. He and I share the philosophy that we know that we can't arrest and incarcerate our way out of gun violence in the city. And so we also agree that everybody, we're not going to be able to reach right away. And there are some people who are who are not ready to receive services, and who may be continuing in a negative trajectory and may need to have a respite time. But we are going to do our very best to offer services and supports and opportunities, and engage, and to use all of the street outreach workers that we already have in place to connect and attempt to engage. And we're not going to give up. We're going to continue to try to continue to engage this population as much as we can. So thank you for that.
Any other commissioners before I open up to the community? No? Okay. All right, so this is for Director Harper, who is brand new for the director of the gun violence prevention. If you want to talk to her, ask her a question, press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature to ask Director Harper a question. Okay, I see Gwendolyn. Let me unmute you, Gwendolyn. Go ahead, Gwendolyn. Okay, Gwendolyn. You have to unmute yourself. Gwendolyn. There you go.
Okay. I'm a born and raised Washingtonian as well. And actually, I personally think that the guns are coming from Maryland and Virginia, just like they broke into a Maryland store today and stole guns and rifles. Okay. That was on the news. They will get to DC because that's what happens. So are y'all partnering with the Maryland and Virginia police to find out exactly what kind of guns, you know, in case they creep into DC as norm? Or what is your position?
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the question. I want to emphasize that we are not law enforcement. That's not my role. But I do know that Chief Conti is working and shares the concern about the guns that are coming into the district. And certainly there are a lot of people who share your thoughts that they're coming from Maryland and Virginia. I think that there needs to be both things going on at one time. We need to manage the influx of guns that are coming into our city, which is a law enforcement task and responsibility, while at the same time working to engage with those who are exhibiting dangerous behavior that could lead them to gun violence. And so that's my role. And so I think that the city has to have both approaches in order to solve this very complicated issue.
I agree. I graduated from UDC, criminal justice, so I do understand. And I've
Firebirds.
also worked with the police department, so I do understand.
Yes,
Just checking.
absolutely. Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Gwendolyn. And let me unmute. I see Kate. Okay, go ahead.
Hi, thanks for letting me speak. I'm Kate. I live in 60. I heard you use the word community a lot, and I'm sorry if like maybe I'm not understanding what exactly that means. The violence disruptors in Brooklyn and like Marquis Young, all them, the guys that have been in prison and they go back to their communities and they work with the kids there to prevent gun violence, is shown to be one of the most effective ways to prevent gun violence. And then when I hear the word community, I keep thinking police, unfortunately, because we're so over policed here in DC. You know, we serve hot meals on Saturdays in DuPont Circle and we have 15 cops show up, you know, and they harass us, they follow us home. We're just serving hot meals to homeless folks. So I'm trying to understand like I'm like shaking because I'm so nervous, but like what exactly this means, because like Chief Conti, like it is still letting these police officers harass people, you know, that aren't even doing anything. Well, I guess we're doing stuff for the community, but like what is the budget for this? Like, are you guys going to look at more community-based solutions? You know, and Peace Direct, an international organization, did a big event with the violence disruptors from Southeast and their success. You know, and one of the things that they said they really needed from the community was that there are a lot of these kids don't know about another way out. You know, it's like, I ain't got nothing to lose. And they needed more connections to like when they found kids that like thought about something bigger, like want to be a graphic designer, that they wanted to be able to connect those kids to people that could tell them how to take that path. Like we have to give people other options. And like, I've been shot at in DC as a direct target 10 years ago. And I live by the N Street Co-op, which we all know had 16 drive-bys. And the community that lived there asked for support from the police department, which we didn't get until someone died. So I don't know like how the partnership with the MPD is working, but the fact that like the police union chief is a white supremacist, like it's clear online what he's posted, like I don't really know like how that partnership would really work. Maybe you have like more to tell us, like can we hire people that have lived in these neighborhoods for a long time and like put the experts to work? I mean, our DC violence interrupters have gotten an international stage. for their success. And I don't understand why we're not doing that in all the neighborhoods, and why we aren't supporting their efforts more. Or Miss Hardy over in Southeast has Guns Down Friday and does community activities for all the kids. Like, these are people that are already working in their free time, not making money, trying to help. I wonder like how, I'll stop talking, but like how that'll really work, because MPD is violent and aggressive. So anyways, thanks for letting me share.
Thanks, Kate.
Absolutely. And if I, you said a lot. What I will say is that one of the main purposes of Building Blocks is to support the successful programs that the city already has. So we have violence intervention and interruption programs that are successful in small pockets, and we know that. But very often when the violence interrupters or violence prevention staff interact with residents, what happens is they face roadblocks in barriers in trying to navigate city services to get help for the residents. And so that's the role of Building Blocks, to support their efforts. I believe that one of the reasons why the mayor chose me is because I have longstanding relationships with so many of the organizations. I so support the work that they do. I don't even believe that they get all of the credit and notoriety that they should for the amazing job that they do, and also for the representation of a demonstration about the value of redemption and the fact that persons can make bad choices and still do good things at a later point in their life. You're not defined by your mistakes that you've made. And so I work very closely with them. There are several different buckets of persons who are doing this work. And so part of my role is to coordinate them. So for example, we have violence interrupters with the ONE's office that are contracted from the ONE's office. We have credible messengers that are contracted from DYRS. We also have the ONE's office, the Attorney General's office, who is contracting with Cure Violence. And we also have the Department of Parks and Recreation, Roving Leaders. And so we are right now taking a look at how we can coordinate all of these efforts to realize even larger successes than we have in little pockets, to expand upon what we know works. The mayor committed $15 million for the remainder of this fiscal year for Building Blocks. And I believe that there will be an even larger commitment that you will see to gun violence prevention in next year's budget. Part of what Building Blocks is going to do is to grant monies to neighborhood-based organizations, very similar to what you just shared about a community member who is doing gun down Friday with the government to take that over, but instead to support her in offering that service and hopefully, or program, and hopefully allow her to expand it to touch even more young people. So that is the goal. We have not worked out all of the details around it, but I can say that I have been inundated with persons with really creative, residents with really creative and innovative ideas around what their communities need. And so I am encouraged around and excited about the ability to partner and with communities. And I don't mean police when I say community, I really mean the residents in the community, the businesses in the community, the faith-based leaders in the community. That's what I mean, the ANC commissioners in the community. That's what I mean when I say community. And I'm really looking forward to partnering with the community to see how we can maximize the resources towards this effort and to get optimal outcomes.
Great. We have one more question. We have Mr. Lily Gregory. I'm going to unmute you, Gregory. There you go. You had a question for Director Harper?
Okay, thank you so much. Yes, Ms. Harper, I had two questions, but I think that you fairly answered one, which was how could we effectively have all of these organizations? I'm actually an organizer for a nonprofit Urban Temple. And what we do is actually a lot of community activist work by, in simple terms, just being boots on the ground, cutting through the red tapes of politics and the theoretical things that a lot of the think tanks believe is what is best for our community, and actually touching base with the community. And one of the difficult things is cutting through the red tape and the politics, because we have so many nonprofits and government entities that are committed to one goal. So we actually have the people and the bodies, but there seems to be some sort of divisiveness and as it relates to actually implementing a plan that can serve everybody. So you kind of answered that. My other question is, what is the mayor's position on addressing the root cause, which ends in the result of gun violence? Gun violence doesn't just start at the beginning of an argument and then the guns go off, or the idea of this is what I'm going to do. Rather, I myself am a native Washingtonian, lived through the crack era, senseless violence era, mass incarceration, gentrification, and I was a victim of that, both as a victim and as a victimizer. So when I speak from a place of being on both sides of that and knowing what that looks like, and how sometimes as a youngster or as a person that's in that lifestyle, how people will come and talk to us as if they know what's wrong with us, as opposed to allowing us to trust in the people to say, this is what's wrong. So what resources is the mayor and your newly appointed, congratulations, by the way, I think that is so awesome.
Thank you.
What are we going to do to address a 60-year trauma that the city has been through going back since the 60s? There is no quick fixes. It's going to take the brain trust, the think tanks, the so-called experts, but it's also going to take the root, the soil, the community, Miss Ethel down the street who have seen so many different things, or it's going to take Miss Martha who goes to church. It's going to take a collective effort. And unfortunately, law enforcement is going to play a part of it. So many times we say, the police, this has nothing to do with the police, but somehow it always ends up in the police hand. So these are conversations I believe that they need to be a part of. And sometimes we have to rip the Band-Aid off and address hard, hurtful truth in order to heal properly. This city has not healed since the 60s, but we keep using these topical ointments. It's a gunshot. Rubbing alcohol isn't going to work. So it's going to take a lot. So what is the mayor actually doing to really be resolved and committed, a deep-seated commitment and love for the people that sometimes require deep sacrifice in order to heal and repair this city that we all believe and hope that this is what she represents. This is what she's about. It takes effort. It's a lifetime of work, effort, commitment, passion, and purpose. This isn't a job, it's a calling. So, so I know I said a lot. I'm kind of long-winded.
No, but you're talking my language, and I believe that I have been called, so I can relate to that, and I appreciate that. I believe that the mayor's investment in building blocks is a demonstration of the mayor's commitment to addressing the issue of gun violence. Building blocks is not designed to address the root causes of violence. we are addressing the proximate causes of violence, which sometimes can create a reprieve for the root causes. The root causes of violence have to be systematically addressed. And in order, it has to be, it's not going to be solved by one government agency. It's going to take all of us. I think that we have, the district invests millions of dollars to the prevention of violence in our city already. And building blocks allows us to all work towards this common goal. We have committed public servants, we have brilliant and committed faith and community leaders and community-based organizations working in our most impacted neighborhoods, but we have to, I just feel like together we can do more. And that if we join forces and join knowledge base and share resources and provide funding and provide services and opportunities, I believe that we can begin to see to be able to address the proximate causes of violence and to be able to help communities heal. It's a complicated issue, it really is. But I'm going to do my absolute best in the role to try to coordinate the resources that we have and to focus them on the communities that need them most and the persons.
Great. Thank you, Director Harper. Thank you, Mr. Lilly, for that question. We appreciate it. Director Harper, please come again. We appreciate the time that you took tonight with us. Sure. And so you don't have the website yet, or you're getting the website?
No, we don't. Yeah, we are getting the website, but we do have an email address that's being monitored constantly and is receiving suggestions and input from residents. So buildingblocks@dc.gov is the email address. And I encourage everyone to submit if you are interested in offering suggestions. Particularly at this time, while we are developing, sort of finalizing the approach and preparing to move forward, I think this is a great time to submit your suggestions.
Great.
We'll also be doing town halls and community meetings in the near future, and I'll make sure that you receive notice of that.
And we will put that out. Thank you for your time. We appreciate you zooming in.
Thank you.
And next, everyone, we have Charles Allen, our council. Where'd you go, Charles?
Right here.
There.
I'm going to.
So welcome. So everyone, this is Charles Allen, who is our council member, our esteemed council member for Ward 6. So Charles, why don't you go ahead and begin?
Great, Rochelle. And my plan was I was going to just talk for a few minutes, hit a couple of highlights, and then kind of turn it over to you to help do some questions. That work for you?
Yeah.
All right, excellent. Well, first off, good night, everybody. It's great to see everybody. Hello to our commissioners, to our neighbors. I hope you're all doing well, staying healthy. What I thought I'd do is kind of run through a couple of top level topics, but then happy to jump in on any issue you want to ask about and kind of dig in deep, however you'd like to. Let me start actually just picking up on the conversation that was just going on. I tuned in and was able to listen to a good bit. Kate Ross, I heard you kind of talk about your experiences. So I was able to hear that part and then some of Linda Harley Harper's responses. So in addition to being a Ward 6 council member, I chair the council's Committee on Judiciary and Public Safety. And one of the things that I did last summer was create the position that Linda Harley Harper now sits in, which is to create a citywide gun violence prevention director. What we were finding is there were lots of people, lots of individuals, lots of agencies even that were purportedly working on gun violence prevention. But the reality is there's lots of friction that exists between agencies. And what we did is we created a position at the city administrator level, so get it up out of the silos, have them be able to pull and try to bring all the resources together to help think about how we get at preventing gun violence. Because the underlying theory, and I think you heard Linda talking about this, is that unless we are willing to really dig deep and work on underlying trauma, underlying root causes of violence, we just stay on the same merry-go-round, going round and round and round. And as I heard, I think Mr. Lilly say, like for 60 years. Like this has been going on for a long time. So I'm excited about Linda Harley Harper taking over this position. She's somebody that I've known for several years, as she's worked very successfully in DYRS, helping young people that have come through and have been impacted by the court system, and has had a great success there. She has a lot of credibility within government, but she also has a lot of credibility outside government, in the community, with stakeholders in neighborhoods. And I think that's going to be a really key and vital part of doing this. The 15 million that she referenced, it's a down payment. I think that it is something that I certainly will look as we approach the budget to continue making sure we are funding. You know, I've had to, last year in the mayor's proposed budget, it cut all the funding for violence prevention, and I had to go find all the dollars to put back into a lot of our violence prevention efforts. I feel like we're headed into a different budget, and I think Linda kind of previewed that a little bit, in that we expect to see a greater investment up front. The council is certainly going to come back and make those investments with violence prevention and interruption efforts. But it's really trying to rethink and redefine, what does public safety mean? This conversation has been going on for the last several years, but certainly was front of mind for a lot of people last year. And that is that we have to be able to think of public safety as more than just the police. One of the things we're working on the committee, for example, is creating alternatives to a response. So for example, right now, whether it's a noise complaint, fireworks, or a person with a gun, we send the same response. We send armed police officers to every one of those calls. That's not the right approach. A lot of other cities have actually moved well ahead of where the district is and are creating different ways to have a tailored response. Someone's in mental health crisis, you don't need to send multiple cruisers, armed police officers to that. You need to send social worker and a paramedic. Somebody who is experiencing homelessness, who's maybe unconscious on the sidewalk, you send a paramedic and other resources. We need to have a more tailored approach, and that's one of the things we're going to work on over this coming year, is trying to think about how do you get the right response for the right call. And that's going to be something that I think is going to cut across a lot of agencies, but I'm really, I think it's urgent and important that we really dig into that. I also wanted to talk for a moment on a different subject, and that is, of course, on what feels like has been a bit of a meltdown over the last week related to the COVID vaccine portals, both online and on the call center. I know I've heard from residents all across Ward 6 who have been incredibly frustrated with what took place. I was on the phone with Octo, which is our chief technology officer, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, as each day that we thought, well, maybe you'll get a little better, and it didn't. To those of you that did reach out to me and gave me kind of specifics, like I know a lot of folks took screenshots of what was going wrong. I was able to get that to Octo to try to help drill down and find out where those errors are. It's not just volume. Volume certainly plays a role, right? On Thursday, more than 30,000 people logged on at the exact same moment for 4,000 slots. Even if the website had worked perfectly, more than 90% of people were not going to get an appointment, and we're going to be left out of that process and are pretty frustrated. But what we saw, I think, were technical glitches. We saw breakdowns of the system itself. On Thursday, we're going to be holding a hearing at the council with Vince Gray to dig deeper into the vaccine system, both the online system as well as the call center, because both did not work well. I have been saying since January that this weekly Hunger Games competition is a really poor way to do this, that we should create a one-time registration. Residents put in their critical information, and then as doses become available, then we're able to help contact and work to get people scheduled. I think, one, it's just a better system. It's also a more equitable system, right? Think about what has to happen at 9 a.m. on a Thursday. The only people who are able to get in and make those phone calls are the people who they don't have work at that time. They've got childcare taken care of. They've got, their laptops and wireless systems all ready to go. That means we've created a system that is already inequitable in terms of who has access to make that call or get online in the first place. A one-time registration would allow us, you could do it by paper, you could do it by phone, you could do it online, and then we roll in as we go. To address, I've been pushing for that. They say that they're moving towards that system sometime in mid-March. It couldn't happen fast enough. I really think we've got to get that done as quickly as possible. The other piece that I've suggested, if volume is our problem, And maybe we should check in with Ticketmaster or anybody else who's dealt with tickets with large demand. But if that's our problem, expanding anyone with a medical underlying condition, age 18 to 64, all at the same time, is going to put a lot of people coming in. Perhaps we should break that up into the first week is age 50 to 64. The next week is 30 to 50. The next week after that's 18 to 30. In some way to spread out the crushing demand that was coming in. And so that's one of the ways I've suggested that we do that. We'll see. They're going to come in Thursday, hopefully with updates, but we're trying to really ramp up our oversight to make sure that that we have this. Vince Gray is the chair of the health committee, so he's going to be the one holding the convening the hearing. I've recently been added to the health committee, so I'm glad that I can start playing a role in that world. My background's in public health, so I feel like I've got something to contribute in this space, and so I'm excited about that coming up. One other big item just to share, you know, we are in this moment right now where we have our oversight hearings, and then we will soon be moving into our budget hearings. If you have not heard already, our budget cycle is going to be pushed back by about 3 weeks from when it normally is. Normally at the end of March, early April is when the mayor puts out their budget. It's now going to be April 22nd. The reason for that is because of the federal relief that's going to be coming through Congress, that we're expecting that we will get a lot of federal dollars, both on what the feds should have given us last year that they didn't, and then what's going to be coming this time. So to be able to accurately plug that into the budget, that's why you're going to see the budget come down 3 weeks later than it normally does. That is not going to shorten the council's time period. We're just going to extend our clock 3 weeks as well on the back end. So that means that normally we're voting on a budget kind of by the end of May. And what that really means is that basically kind of mid to end of June is when we'll be voting on the final parts of the budget. I'd love to hear your thoughts on this. I'll go ahead and tell you, I think this is going to be probably the most consequential budget we've gone through in a very long time. On paper, this budget's perhaps not going to actually look that bad. And what I mean by that is it's going to pencil out roughly what it was last year. And people might say, well, look, it looks good. Here's why I don't think that's accurate. One is that the CFO identified a $500 million surplus from last year, which angers me and many people because that's $500 million that we could have been putting towards our small businesses, to our residents struggling with housing, to our residents struggling with food. We could have put that $500 million to good use for DC residents last year, but instead, because the CFO took I think, an overly conservative approach, we are left with $500 million. Those $500 million go to fill in the deficit that already exists for this fiscal year. We're then going to get about $2.2 billion in federal dollars coming in. That's a significant amount, but those are one-time dollars. So all that told together, you're going to look at a budget that's probably going to pencil out, and some people might think, well, all right, this hadn't been so bad. Here's the other thing, though, that our CFO has found. This pandemic, this recession has hit our city so unequally. And it's hard for me to have people not recognize that, but I really want to drill that home. That's not just on the health consequences, where we have seen the people who are most likely to get COVID and our neighbors who are most likely to die are Black and brown in our city. The health impacts have been incredibly disparate, but the economic impacts have been incredibly disparate. It is when we frequently talk about a tale of two cities here in DC, that is what is taking place in real time right now. And in the CFO's analysis, what it's shown is that high income earners, the folks who could telework on a dime, not worried about a roof over their head or when their next meal is coming, they're doing fine. And in many cases, they're actually doing better economically. They've saved money from a lot of expenses they normally would be having. Folks that are invested in the stock market are doing pretty well with the stock market right now. So we have one group of neighbors who are weathering this storm economically much better than our other neighbors who do not know if they will have a home in 6 months, do not know where their next meal is coming from. They have lost their job and they don't know when it's coming back. They've lost childcare, all the things. And that is where I feel like we've got to really be very intentional in this budget coming up, is to be able to look at our budget in a way that doesn't just look at a budget 1 year at a time. There will be a temptation for us to say, well, we'll pass this budget, then let's just wait and see. Let's wait and see what next spring looks like. That will be an entire year of the people who are in deep pain already, hurting and falling off the margins even more than they already are. So I think this spring and this budget is a time when we've got to be willing to meet the moment that's in front of us, to make the investments that are necessary, and really think about the inequities that we see play out in our city. So I invite you to be a part of that process. I'd love to hear ideas that you have around it, what you think are different priorities. I'll tell you, for me, some of that's going to be the way in which childcare has been impacted so much. Working moms have been incredibly hit hard during this pandemic with the loss of childcare seats and childcare operators all across the city. I think that we've got to be very thoughtful around public transit, for example. So great, I've been able to telework. Your essential workers haven't. The people who are making sure that there's groceries on the shelf at the grocery store, the folks that are your essential employees all across the city are reliant on transit. And we've got to be very thoughtful and protective to make sure that our transit system both survives and gets stronger, but also does so in a way that increases access in a more equitable system as we do this work ahead. We've got to think about housing. We've got so many folks that are on the margins. Our evictions moratorium has literally saved lives. We've now been able to document and have the hard data that shows us that evictions moratorium has actually saved lives. But at some point, that evictions moratorium will end. And are we facing a cliff? And what steps are we willing to take right now to avoid that cliff and to think about all the folks that are on the margins and all the folks that are facing an eviction in a way that is just going to be absolutely devastating in our city. So these are some of the things that I'm thinking about as your council member, as we are working towards what the budget's going to look like. I want to make sure I stop talking and I leave enough time to kind of help answer questions, Rochelle. So those are just kind of some top level topics. I'm happy to drill down, block by block or to more minute issues if you'd like, but I just kind of want to hit a couple of the main themes. But again, I really appreciate you having me join you this evening. I appreciate, especially to our commissioners, I appreciate the hard work that you're doing on behalf of your neighbors and our city, just trying to think through strategically how we keep moving our city forward, how we're looking after our neighbors while it feels like we just have crisis after crisis after crisis layered on top of us. But I know we're going to get through this and be stronger on the other side because we've got so many committed neighbors looking after one another and working hard. So thank you very much. And Rochelle, why don't I turn it back over to you to help answer some questions?
So I'll just be brief, Charles. I know I can always at you at any time. So, I'm glad you mentioned about the vaccine rollout because, last Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I have never been hit with so many text messages at a certain time. It was horrific. And so I guess, we know it's not your fault, right? We get that. But for when you said that this is not going to be fixed this week, this is the type of thing where this is a project management. If someone needs to be managing this project, no one is really managing it. And for it not to be fixed this week is just insane. Hire someone who can do it. I just,
Yeah. Well, I want to be clear. They are trying to fix it. What I mean is in terms of creating the one-time registration. That's the system they're looking at a mid-March rollout. I'm trying to encourage them to get that done as fast as possible. The system is run through the mayor's office which is called OCTO, which is the Office of Chief Technology Officer. They then partner with the Department of Health to create the system, but they're like the IT people on the back end of it. They are well aware of where it's falling apart. I don't know if they're sleeping much. Like, they are working on it. They've contracted a lot of it out to Microsoft. And so Microsoft is the vendor that is actually running the system. And so that is also part of it where I think we're finding our problems. But that's also what we're going to try to dig into at the hearing on Thursday, is to really understand that relationship and what's going on and why it's failed. Because other states have systems, some states have systems that are experiencing the same thing with a lot of failures and problems. Other states have had systems that aren't that problematic. And I'll say, I don't normally point to West Virginia as an example, but West Virginia actually set up a one-time registration system pretty early on, and it's actually worked pretty well, where they've been able to reach residents, they sign up, and they roll out the vaccine appointments. So that to me is one of the most important pieces to get done, and we're trying to push them as fast as they can. But I don't want you to feel like they're not working on fixes. They absolutely are, but they're not going to have the one-time registration set up by Thursday. At least that's what it seems like.
Commissioners, do you have anything to say to Councilmember Allen?
Nope.
Kevin, Alex?
I'll jump in. Council member, I appreciate you joining our meeting today, and I especially appreciate the comments that you gave around community safety. I think that we are hearing time and again that policing is not an effective approach to reducing gun violence in our community, and we need new solutions. I want to talk a little bit about the FY22 budget. Some of these items I think that you've heard before. First of all, last Friday I testified at the DDOT oversight hearing about traffic violence on North Capitol Street. North Capitol Street is a 6-lane highway that leads through residential neighborhoods. And since September 2018, 8 people have died on that road. It's a street that has been studied before by DDOT, but there has been, it is glaring how many of the study recommendations how few of them have been implemented. I sent this, ANC signed on to a letter requesting funding for something a little bit more ambitious, a joint study between the Office of Planning and DDOT to look at how we can fundamentally redesign North Capitol Street. One, so that it stops killing so many people, and 2, so that it becomes a street that connects communities and contributes towards the opportunity for people who live in the area and the economic vitality for the small businesses that we're seeing on North Capitol. So I want to know if you, that's something that I would really appreciate your support, putting money in the FY22 budget to fund that study.
Yes, I can. Very quick answer. Yeah.
Okay, great. Another thing, yesterday, Ward 5 Council Member McDuffie communicated his budget priorities to the mayor, among which were $20 million to fund a neighborhood library for the for the Eckington Edgewood neighborhoods, which is important, and they need and deserve a library. However, the DC Public Library Facilities Plan says,
we're out your jurisdiction.
Excuse me, the Facilities Master Plan says that when DCPL builds that library, they will be closing a library in the ANC 6E community, the Northwest 1 library. Will you help this ANC by decoupling these two issues, which don't need to be tied together? They're unrelated issues. Eckington should have a library, and the Northwest 1 community should have a library as well. Further, the Northwest 1 library should not be closed until DCPL has a plan to build a larger full-service library to provide the services that are needed by the community, by the current residents and the future and returning residents for the thousands of new units that will be built in that neighborhood.
Yeah, I think, I know you and I have talked about this before. The current site, I think, does lack the ability for it to grow. And I think when we think about what a full service library could or should be, I'm not sure if it's ever going to meet the needs in its current space. And so whether we look at, what could be done at the actual Northwest 1 campus there in a way that could expand possibly, but I just feel like it's constrained with that co-located space, or whether it's a standalone. I'd like to think through and work on that with you and with neighbors there, because I think that that's something that, my mom's a librarian. I'm a big fan of libraries. So I want to see us be able to have quality, high quality neighborhood branch libraries that really serve a place, because it's about a lot more than just a book. Our libraries, as you could see with our Watha T. Daniel Library, it is a civic hub. It is a gathering place. It's a place where we gather as a community, as friends, as neighbors. It's an experience space. It's not just about getting a book off a shelf. And so these are very important places for a community and for a neighborhood.
I agree with that, but I think that the immediate step that needs to happen, especially if Councilmember McDuffie is going to be pushing for the Eckington Edgewood Library, which is wonderful, is that we need to decouple opening a new library from closing Northwest 1, because if Northwest 1 gets closed, it's highly unlikely that we're going to have a full service library serving that neighborhood, in my opinion. 2 other things quickly. One, this afternoon, Councilmember Nadeau communicated her budget priorities to the mayor, among which are expanding the violence interrupters program to the Ledroit Park, kind of Shaw area, 7th Street. I don't know if you've talked with Councilmember Nadeau about that, but I think that that is something that I personally very strongly support, and I think should happen because we have had a lot of gun violence in that area. And then the last thing is please support in the FY22 budget full funding for the ANC Participation and Planning Act. This is an act that was passed by council that will staff up the Office of ANCs to better assist our ANC to participate in zoning and planning issues. We have a PUD in my single member district, and it's very difficult for me to negotiate for example, the public benefits package, because I'm not sure what benefits are commensurate with the zoning relief. So we need services, especially the OANC is, they struggle to provide the support that we need. And I think funding this act with 2 FTEs is the start for providing the support that ANCs need to do our job and serve our residents.
I completely agree, Alex. I mean, I've supported this, and to me, it's really important because if I were to just look at my Ward 6 ANCs, I've got lots of incredible people that have stepped up and are serving their community, right? Some of them are also going to be retired attorneys in land use, and they don't have a day job, and they have a professional expertise as an attorney in legal matters and zoning. And then other commissioners are full-time job, full-time parent, and an ANC commissioner, but aren't land use experts. So what we end up with is an inequity in that some people have just a wealth of personal and professional expertise that can help them in that type of a situation, and others that need to have extra support. And that's, to me, where doing this in OANC can be really helpful, is to level the playing field so that all commissioners have those resources, have the ability to get, have that backup of somebody who has the professional expertise and whose job it is to back you up and to be there to help you. So yeah, I agree. I think it's something that could be really important as all of our commissioners then are fighting and battling on behalf of their own neighborhoods as well.
Thank you so much.
Okay, any other commissioners?
Sure.
Patrick?
Thanks. Councilmember Allen, thank you for joining us tonight. The last time you and I spoke, we talked about Cobb Park, and I thought you made some interesting points about that. So if you could, from sort of from your position on the council, and you could speak generally too to how the council sees it, I'd like for you to share with the community as well how you see that project developing, and if you can speak to things like timeline and funding as well, that would be great. Another point I'd like to raise, which falls just outside of ANC 6E, is maglev. We anticipate, especially me representing the Mount Vernon Triangle area, the completion of maglev would change a lot of things in the neighborhood. So that's another point I'd like your perspective on, and the DC Council perspective, how you are viewing that project going forward.
Yeah, on Cobb Park, that to me is it's a big priority for me, because when we think about the Mount Vernon Triangle neighborhood, there's not a whole lot of green space, and if we think a little bit to your east, and we look at Noma, where a lot of development took place, and then after the fact, they were like, we forgot parks and public spaces, and then we had to go put $50 million into creating parks and public spaces. Now, those are critical public spaces that become open public space, very important for community. Cobb Park to me can be one of those spaces, but I don't want it to be an afterthought. We got to get it on the front end. If we were to just develop on that site, which is what I feel like I have to kind of keep battling, this desire to develop that space, you could end up building a building, but you're not going to get back any green space anywhere. And so I think that if we're really thoughtful about it, we come up with a way that we program the space, we can create a really community-facing, community-serving green public space. That said, it feels like it's continued to be an uphill battle at the council. So when you ask about a timeline, I couldn't give you a timeline about when it's going to actually happen. I had put some money in the budget about I can't remember exactly when, maybe about a year and a half ago or so, for DPR to kind of work on helping study what could be done there. But the actual capital expenditure of building a park is not in the budget currently. And so I think that's something that will have to get done, but creating a shared vision around what we want to see there is a big part of how we do that. When it comes to maglev, call me just a little skeptical of it. I guess I'm not actively for it or against it. It's, it's a private endeavor that folks are trying to do, but it would have a significant community impact. I'd rather put my time and energy into getting Union Station done right, something that's really real and right in front of us, and I think has a huge impact on the way in which the city works. I don't know if maglev will actually happen or not. So to be honest, I haven't put a lot of energy into that. I'd say I'm a little skeptical that it would actually get pulled off. But then again, I've heard from a couple of neighbors who are excited about it. I've heard from neighbors who are really against it. I really haven't, I guess, staked out a hard position other than just kind of being a bit skeptical that it'll ever actually come together.
Thank you for that.
Okay, any other commissioners before I open it up to the community?
Yeah, I'll take a stab.
Okay.
Commissioner Allen, thanks for addressing us this evening. And I know you and I have been talking a little bit lately, so I'll keep this short. But just wanted to note that I really do appreciate your comments and your oversight of the vaccination issue. It is a comedy of errors, except it's not funny because these are life and death issues. Of course, if you allow vaccination registration for 100,000 people on one day, and you haven't stress tested your servers, like things are going to crash. We need to find solutions from a management, from a rollout perspective, and I appreciate your looking into this. I would just like to acknowledge we need a long-term and short-term plan for addressing the homeless encampment problem. Not only from the neighbor's perspective of dealing with the negative externalities of encampments nearby, but also for the homeless individuals themselves who are really in need of permanent supportive housing and potentially short-term solutions that may provide some immediate relief for other neighbors as well. So I mean, we're really in a deadlock here, and we need to find a way out, some relief, some vision of hope for everyone that things are going to move forward. And then finally, I just wanted to echo what Alex had noted about street safety. He had some specific concerns about North Capitol, for example, but I think in general, we have a problem with speeding, traffic violations. There's zero enforcement. I mean, we have Vision Zero program, but it's really Vision Zero enforcement. We need to see funding for DDOT to implement safe street improvements, especially and acknowledge the failure of the current Slow Streets program and how it's just creating conflicts between neighbors. And I just would hope that these things are on your priority list and on your thought list as well.
Yeah, they are, Commissioner. I appreciate that. Yes, just touching briefly on how we are working on our unhoused neighbors to move them into safe and stable housing. To me, permanent supportive housing is the solution. I've gone to bat for this. I've fought for this. I've even had situations where when PSH was being proposed in a neighborhood, had to kind of fight back against some neighbors to say this is the right thing to do, and have of course fought for funding for it. For folks who aren't familiar with permanent supportive housing, what it does is it works to meet an individual where they are, help provide the supportive services that help that individual, whatever their needs are. And then also at the same time, keep a roof over their head. It's, whatever the underlying causes of that individual's lack of housing, it's really hard to address that in a low barrier shelter where someone is coming in at night, getting kicked back out in the morning. You've got to really help stabilize an individual, help meet them where they are, meet their needs, and then you're able to create the type of permanent and supportive and stable housing. And so to me, that is the solution. And I think that we've got to keep working hard on that as a city. That to me is one of our biggest challenges, is helping create that, as well as, sometimes folks that, may not know what PSH is, or may be a little afraid of what that type of housing is. It's really successful. We have really successful examples of it in our city, where it can do a lot of good things to help people get into safe and stable housing. So that's one of the ways that I think is a really important part of the process.
Okay, any other questions from the commissioners? No, okay. If you're interested in talking to Charles Allen, our council member, press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. I'm going to unmute this person who's had their hand raised for a while with the phone number. Go ahead, you have to unmute yourself. You have a question for Charles?
Yeah, hi, it's Pleasant Man here.
Hi, Pleasant.
The thing, hi. Yeah, about the vaccine progress here. First, I guess I'm sort of amazed here that you set up a system that's automated that you need an iPhone in order to, is the least you need in order to get to it, let alone any crashes. And then everyone's surprised that it's unequitable. I think that, you know, by saying if it's, should the system get back in a couple of weeks, it's not, there's still going to be a problem. I noticed that at least, what is it, Serve DC and the Mokers were going door to door. And I don't know if you've noticed, George Jones this Sunday had an op-ed talking about how Bread for the City was dealing with it. And I mean, the city has to do something else if it wants everyone who qualifies to get, you know, vaccinated on time here.
Completely agree, Pleasant. I mean, the system that we have, I and most on the council have been pretty critical of the system from the beginning, and from the standpoint of this weekly competition for these slots. You know, and of course, what did we see when it opened up for the first week? You know, and not trying to knock anybody from Ward 3, but we saw a whole bunch of people in Ward 3 get all the appointments because we opened it up just, you know, without any real thought around equity to it. So, and those numbers now have continued though. So if you still look at the vaccination numbers, you're going to see that the neighborhoods that are more affluent and white have gotten many more of the vaccine appointments than the neighborhoods that are Black and brown and lower income. And that's I believe that's inherently because of the system that got set up, because of the way in which it really was all about who has the ability to set up 3 laptops at the same time, who can take off the time or not have another commitment, be able to do all these things at a one specific time. Like that's like from the get-go, this system was set up in a way that was not working. You know, I worked, for example, to try to help address some of this in Ward 6. We've been working with DC Housing Authority to be able to target some of our senior buildings that are our DC Housing Authority buildings to bring mobile vaccines to each site, and then work with residents to find, first off, it's not me knocking on their door, it's finding neighbors, trusted voices from within that neighborhood who come and say, all right, in 2 days, here's when it's going to be. What questions do you have? How do we help address that concern if you've got one? What's the time period going to be? It's also a window of time. It's also a vaccine on site, so you have to travel across the city. Like those types of efforts are much more successful. My staff is, I feel like they are just burning candles on both ends, just working overtime, trying to help with our residents in public housing and in our senior buildings, but then also the number of individuals that we are trying to personally handle, which it is unsustainable. Like there's no way that like a council office is going to be able to do this for the entire ward, but we're trying our damnedest, where we're trying to hold the hands and get people and make the phone calls ourselves, go on the computers ourselves and get people signed up with the system that we've got, while we also are working and advocating and pushing to get a better system in place. And again, moving to a registration system, which you could, you know, you talk about like going and knocking on doors. That's great. It still requires you to say, knocking on the door. So at 9 a.m. on Thursday, you need to be logged in at this page and do this and do that. Whereas if you had a registration system, you could knock on that same door and someone could fill out a piece of paper, or you could help fill it out for them. Like it's so much a better way to help reach folks who really need the extra support, who in reality are probably going to be our neighbors that are most impacted by the negative impacts of COVID. So I hear you, Pleasant. I think you're right. And the city has got to do a lot better on this, and it's got to do it better fast.
Great, thank you. And we have Mr. Walker here. I'm going to unmute you, Mr. Walker. You have to unmute yourself. Mr. Walker, where'd you go?
I saw him there a second ago, but then disappeared.
He disappeared. Okay, well, hopefully I'll zoom back in. Okay, Kate, you have a question? I'm gonna unmute you. Kate.
Hi
Okay.
again. Busy here being a big pain in the ass. I'm, the encampment was brought up, and that really hits close to home for me. Not only do I live 3 blocks away, but I'm extremely disgusted with the comments residents have made about getting rid of the people that live there. I'm like horrified. They want to displace a bunch of people in the middle of a pandemic with no housing solutions. The housing voucher list is 20,000 people long. I don't understand how we would be able to get them rapid housing. I have personally gone and made relationships with the people that live there. They are on lists to get into housing. Mutual aid has been supporting the people that live there weekly. I know there's weekly grocery deliveries, there's supplies deliveries. We are taking care of the neighborhoods most vulnerable. Most of the people who are doing the mutual aid work don't even live in this ward. And I have 2 dogs. You could probably see them in the back sleeping. And I love my dogs, but never would I want to put someone's life at risk for a fucking dog park. My brother was homeless. He had got hit by a dump truck when he was 8. He had a TBI. He was on the streets for 7 years. And, I am so grateful that people looked out for my brother when he was struggling. He's almost 50 now and has dementia. And he's only ever been able to work a minimum wage job in his life. The comments made about drug addiction, mess, I just think it's really insensitive because as a white person, I realize that I am a colonizer in Shaw. I have rented a house from a Black owner that I live here. And I think it is our responsibility, if we're going to come in and colonize a fucking historically Black neighborhood, that we take care of the residents who've lived here. And wanting to put up a fence and shove them out in the middle of a pandemic is unconscionable. And it's suggesting that they go to shelters. First of all, there's no storage for their things at shelters. They can't stay with their partners and they risk getting COVID. So if they're high risk, it's just not an option. Councilmember Allen has mentioned the great disparities we have in this city, the rapid gentrification, we are all responsible. I am responsible, that we can judge ourselves on how we take care of the most vulnerable in any society. And if Shaw and DC, the last encampment they dug up, they just come in with bulldozers and they take away these people's things with police officers there. And I don't know how people can do this to other people. I don't know how I have to humanize people that live there. I know their names, I know their dogs' names, I know where their parents work. I don't know how people don't see them as people. Yeah.
Kate, I'm gonna have Charles, do you mind? I'm gonna have him answer, okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, well, Kate, I appreciate it. I don't know if there was a question there. I very much appreciate the statement of what we have to do. And I think you've been a part of some of the conversations when I've tried to join neighbors to talk about, okay, well, I've talked with other neighbors. And I think there are you have other neighbors who also share the same belief and expressions that you've shared as well about the fact that, I certainly look at this and say, those are my constituents too. They are our neighbors. And when we think about what we've got to do, now, I also then of course have my policy hat on, right? So when we talk about pushing hard on making investments in housing, this is part of the reason why. But shelter policies, you know, I don't know. I don't think people actually realize that we have very, very few places where couples, partners are, if they were to go into shelter, where they could actually go together. So now imagine if you were in that situation that you're being told, sure, you can come into shelter, but you and your partner can't come together. You're going to have to go separate spaces. You're probably going to pick to go with the with your partner. Same thing we have with adults and adult children, a family unit. Same thing with pets, and that's, I think some people sometimes try to trivialize that, but pets are a big part of our bonding. I think you, with your two there, that's, you know, I hear you saying that, but also the way in which the dignity of being able to store your belongings, and it's not just, I mean, we're talking about your personal documents, we're talking about your personal ID. All of these things. One of the things that I've tried to push on the council is to be able to have the city pay for being able to store your items, your personal belongings. That is a big barrier, because again, imagine if you were in this position, you know, where everything you own is in maybe a couple of bags, but you don't have an ability to store it securely or safely, and that's all you've got. You then may make the choice and say, well, I'd rather be in a tent, or I'd rather be outside because I can keep my things and I don't want to lose those, because that's all I got left. I mean, I know when I've talked with folks that are unhoused, it's, you know, it's family memorabilia. It's things that cannot be replaced. And so I do think we've got to recognize a dignity and respect with our neighbors who are experiencing homelessness and who are unhoused. We also have to work towards, obviously, our long-term solutions, and that's part of what's going to happen. But we are in a space where it's not just in Shaw, it's not just in Ward 6, it's across the whole city. We have encampments for a variety of reasons, but we also have a large number of people who need to get into safe and stable housing. And that, to me, at least, is part of my overall goal, is how we help our neighbors who are struggling be able to get into safe and stable housing. But I appreciate your comments very much. Thank you.
Okay, so I'm gonna, Miss Wilson, I'm gonna unmute you. Ruby, you have to unmute yourself. There you go. Ruby, you have to unmute yourself, Ruby. There you go.
We're unmuted. Hi, I'm actually here at NJNO, and I have a resident, Sean, who wants to add something about the proposed renovations.
Yes, my thing is this. I'm born and raised around this neighborhood. I've been around this neighborhood over 30 years. And my thing is this, as opposed to putting a dog park here, my family grew up here and they no longer living, right? And I don't want to really get into the specifics of it, but it has been a lot of violence throughout the years of this neighborhood, and it's no longer going on now, right? So I was a part of this neighborhood and a part of like different things, you know, going on in the neighborhood, right? So my thing is to have a dog park here, and like it's not no more violence really now going on. You know what I'm saying? Just to put a dog park here, I mean, I just don't see the sense in it. And it's not no longer feuding no more or anything going on. You know, as opposed to, you know, just having. I'm homeless now, right? Being out here, I mean, I'm sleeping in the tent behind my neighborhood, and because like I say, my family has passed away now, and I don't have really no relatives now. I'm trying to get housing and, you know, things of that nature, and, you know, and to help, but just to kick us out anywhere, just have us just tell us nowhere to go. Where will we go? I mean, I'm just trying to understand. If they just say, okay, a dog park, where will we be housed at? I mean, I'm trying, as opposed to trying to get on my feet and within the next month or two. Where will we be housed at?
And Charles, you mentioned trying to provide housing for people, but as I'm sure Sean will back me up, So many people here are already on a list for housing. They've waited years, they've waited months and years. Like putting people on a list for housing is not a solution, as we already know. Am I wrong, Sean?
No, at all. At all.
So unless people were actually given housing before renovations started, I don't think that's a real solution. That's a promise that I don't think you guys will or can live up to.
Yeah.
So Charles, can I interject for 1 second? Thank you, Ruby and Sean. I just want to say to Sean and Ruby that the survey just ended for the park. So we honestly don't know what's going to happen. Dog park was brought up, kids play areas brought up, all sorts of stuff has been brought up. So we don't know what the plans are going to be. But that said, there is the other issue about the encampment. So, myself and all of my constituents want housing for everyone there. And what you said, Sean, certainly, but I know that's a different issue for what the park plans are. And we do not know what's going to happen exactly to that park yet, because I haven't even seen the survey result. But go ahead, Charles, I'm sorry.
I was just gonna say, I appreciate Ruby actually being there to help Sean have his voice heard in this meeting. So thank you for doing that. And Ruby and Sean, if you can help connect with me after this as well, I'd be happy to talk further about this and what we can do, Sean, with you in particular, to see if there's ways that we can be helpful. I mean, from a big picture, Ruby, you're right, of course, that we have a long list when we talk about housing vouchers. This is where we have time and again, or at least some of us on the council have been trying to put more money and more resources into creating the housing for that voucher. We also, of course, have other strategies and other housing strategies. Permanent supportive housing is one of them. There are multiple ways. I think this, again, like when I talked earlier about this upcoming budget as well, when we talk about this being, like, I'm going ahead and predicting what I think is going to happen, in that you're going to see a budget on paper that's going to look like it pencils out, that people are going to say, well, that wasn't so bad. All right, that looks okay. And it's filled with one-time funds. From a budgeting perspective, you can't count on that next year. We're not getting another $2.2 billion in federal aid next year. So we know, we should be very honest, we know it mirages, it papers over where the deficiencies and the deficits really are. It's important. I'm glad we're going to get that federal aid. It's going to be critically important, but it's not enough to address the failures and inadequacies that are here currently. And it certainly isn't as we get past spending that one-time funding into the future. That's why, again, I think this spring is going to be such an important budget to be able to think through where we put those investments, and housing has got to be one of those important high priorities where we're putting more resources into it. But Ruby, if you could help, I can give you my email address. If you and Sean can help me connect, I'd be happy to follow up with you after this too. My email address is first initial, last name, so C. Allen @dccouncil.us. And Rochelle or other commissioners can help us connect as well.
So everyone, I apologize. We're going to have to move on. We can go through us if you want to talk to Charles, or talk to Charles separately through his team, but it is now 8:03. So we're going to move on. Okay, Charles, thank you so much.
Michelle, can I do one real fast? Just
okay.
Because I saw there at least still a few hands up there. So if anybody had any questions, or it comes to you later tonight, please feel free to contact me by email.
Yep.
It's C. Allen, so CALLEN @dccouncil.us. That's the easiest way to get to me. John was on the call somewhere. I can't see her. There's John Madison from my team is also here. Same email, first initial, last name @dccouncil.us. And we'll be happy to work with everybody. And if you had a specific question we weren't able to get to, feel free to fire it off to me and I'll work on getting back to you. But Rochelle, thanks so much for having me.
Thank you, Charles. We hope to see you again, and we hope to have you back in the community.
Thanks, everybody.
Chair Nigro, would it be possible to do one last, like a lightning round? Maybe
no, we got to move on. We got other stuff.
There's a lot of important issues being discussed.
I know, but Charles could be here all night. We'll have to have another time with Charles. So I apologize, everyone, but we're going to move on. Thank you, Charles Allen. Okay, so next we have Talib. Are you here from the mayor's office? I saw you here earlier. Talib? He was here. Okay. Raise your hand or press *9. To live from the mayor, you're not here anymore. Okay, so we'll go and come back to him. Oh, there you are. Okay. Go ahead. This is Talib, who's from the mayor's office. Go ahead, where'd you go?
The topics that was discussed.
Go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Talib, we can't hear you again. We can't hear you.
You hear me?
No.
I'm here. Can you see me?
Yeah, we can see you. Go ahead.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep.
All right. So I want to just make a few comments on some of the things.
Nope, you're fading out again. You wanna call in?
My computer's working perfectly fine.
Okay.
Can you hear me now?
No.
I'm unmuted. My video.
Okay. You're
Can you
faded.
hear me, Commissioner Nigel, can you hear me?
Just now, but go ahead.
I just have a few comments that I want to make about the vote.
You know what, Talib, we can't hear you. So why don't you, we're gonna go on to the next agenda item, and then when you can call, well, you can call in, okay? Just use the phone line. Okay, so call in. All right, let's go to the next agenda item. We have 953rd Street Northwest. This is in Commissioner Rogers' area, and Commissioner Rogers had to step out of the meeting, Karen. And I don't think he's back. So let me unmute Tony. There you go, Tony.
Good evening.
And let me unmute Christopher. Hi, Christopher.
Hi there.
And let me bring up the presentation. Go ahead, Tony.
All right. This is a development that's coming on 3rd Street, 953rd Street Northwest. It will be east of the U.S. Bar Association building on 4th Street. This one will be on 3rd Street. So anyway, they are in the process of doing the development plan, and they came up with a concept to do a resident-only cafe for this building. So they're asking for a special exception to provide this cafe service in this development. Chris?
Oh, you muted yourself. There you go. Okay.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Brown, and thank you, Rochelle, and good evening to all the other commissioners and everybody else. I know it's been a long meeting, so we'll be relatively brief, hopefully. My name is Christopher Cohen. I'm with the law firm of Holland and Knight. I'm land use counsel for the developer, which is the Mount Vernon Development Group. With me tonight also is Troy Balcoma, and I will kick it over to him when the time is right. So just to reiterate what Mr. Brown shared with the group, we have an application that we've submitted before the Board of Zoning Adjustment, requesting special exception relief to incorporate a restaurant use into the penthouse level of what will be a new multifamily building that will provide approximately 96 units. So we're pretty excited about that. There are some other positive aspects to this application that I think Troy would be better suited to speak to, but happy to share that we met with the zoning committee last Thursday and things seem to go well, and we're excited to share this project with the full ANC this evening. I'm going to kick it over to Troy and he'll talk a little bit more about the project in detail. Thanks.
So Marcus and Ed, could you unmute Troy? Troy, press *9 or raise your hand. Troy?
I think we're set. Can everybody hear me?
Yep.
Great. Good evening, everyone. Thanks for your time tonight. My name is Troy Balcom. I'm with Quadrangle Development. We've done multiple projects in the Mount Vernon Triangle neighborhood, and hopefully this one will be one of the next ones that comes along. As Mr. Brown and Chris mentioned, this is at 953rd Street. So just to orient you with where this is near the corner of 3rd and I. It's on the west side of 3rd and just north of I Street, directly to the east of the DC Bar building. The existing brick building that's at the corner of 3rd and I will remain, and it will not be part of this project. So a little bit, so there you go. There's a little bit of picture of the site. And so as you can see a little bit, the project is serviced by an existing east-west alley that will handle all of the parking and loading requirements for the project, which means there won't be any additional curb cuts along 3rd Street, which is great. Also noting that there is what's been identified as a heritage tree in front of the site. And so we, as a developer, have worked with DDOT to develop and implement a plan for preserving the tree, and even through construction and post-construction. So that's had a little bit of an impact on the design of the building, but we've been able to work around it. So we're very excited about that. We think that alone, having a mature tree in front of your building is a great thing. The building itself is 96 units, 13 floors, built to 130 feet, the maximum height limit, with below grade parking to, at a ratio we think is appropriate. We think it's going to be a high quality design, sort of in keeping with the other developments we've done in the neighborhood. We're excited to get this one started. But the reason for our request, as again, Mr. Brown and Krista mentioned, is we're looking to incorporate a new amenity. Because this site is a little bit on the small side, there's not room for sort of the typical rooftop pool that you see on residential buildings these days. And so we're looking to do something a little bit more unique, in the sense that we're looking to incorporate sort of a commercial kitchen facility, but only for the use of the residents and their guests. And so we think this is going to be something that residents will enjoy and make good use of. And yeah, and so we're excited to bring this to you guys tonight, and hope it meets with your approval.
Do we need to see any of this, Troy? Do I need to show any more of this?
That's just a sort of a site configuration. You can see that 950 is shaded in the light blue. And if you go to the next one, you'll see that we have a sort of it's a building image. So you can see that it's in keeping with many of the other buildings in the neighborhood. And then I believe the next sheet shows the sort of the concept of the penthouse plan, and how where this kitchen and private cafe will be located within the rooftop. So it'll have views to the south and the southwest, which means it should be able to have views of the top of the Capitol, as well as the Washington Monument, which are always
okay.
in the summertime.
And then that's it, right? Okay.
And then it's sort of a closing page.
Okay, great. Okay, Tony.
Okay, we felt that it was a great concept and very unique for the residents and their guests, and we had no real issues or concerns to bring forth at this time. So we were in total support, unanimous vote to support.
Okay.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions from the commissioners about this project?
Hey, I've got a question. So my name is Commissioner Patrick Parlay. Your building falls just outside of my area. I got a note that this building was for sale as of back in January of this year. Could you speak a little bit to that? Is it still for sale, et cetera?
Yep, I think that's a question probably more suited for Troy, and Troy's on mute, so
Troy.
Mr. Balcom, yeah.
There we go.
Yep.
Commissioner Parlay, good question. The site, we do have a package on the street. We are currently exploring options, although there's nothing definitive, and but we are keeping our options open right now, I would say.
Sorry, maybe I don't quite understand. So you've got a plan that you're working right now to build this building up, but there's a possibility that you may sell this lot before building commences. Is that correct?
That is correct. We are sort of playing both sides of the fence right now.
Okay, thank you for that.
That's a great question, Patrick. So, I mean, what's the status right now, Troy? Troy.
Yep, sorry. I muted myself. Thanks for unmuting me again. The status right now is that the status is unchanged. The package is on the street, but we haven't received or fielded any offers at this point or accepted any offers. So it's an ongoing process that we expect will take, we'll see how it goes over the next several weeks.
Any other questions from the commissioners? Frank?
Yeah, that was a good question. I'm perplexed now. Because we're going to vote on this. So you're looking to sell the land, but you still want to build, or if a sale comes through, you won't build, or people who buy the land, will they continue to build?
Could be anything, Frank.
Yeah, exactly. So this whole plan is, why are we even voting on it if they're not committed to building?
Troy?
Sorry, again, yeah, we are committed to continuing with the project and advancing the design with the idea that we've built, this would be our 7th project in Mount Vernon Triangle. So we're big believers here. We're simply in the process of trying to determine what's best for the site, we think this is the path, and we are, long-term holders, and we're committed to the site. So, that's the best I can say right now.
Troy, you're not committed to the site. You're selling the site. That's not commitment.
So it sounds like selling is plan A and building is plan B, if you don't sell.
No,
I could buy this tomorrow. I'm not going to, but I'm just saying.
I disagree with that. I think our first plan is to continue with our plans and advance the site.
Tony, did you know about this?
No, I didn't.
I have a question. I don't see how a potential sale of the site is material to this ANC determining whether or not the applicant meets the criteria for special exception.
No, I think I understand that, Alex, but I just find it interesting that this could all change literally tomorrow. So for this project that sounds fantastic. But,
I mean, there's a lot going on in the real estate industry right now where they may not want to develop it or may want to.
Yeah.
I'm sympathetic to that. I don't think it's relevant.
No, we can still vote on it. I'm not saying, I just find it very odd. So that.
Okay. Yeah.
Okay, and Kevin's not here. He had to leave the meeting. Okay, so any other questions from the commissioners before I open up to the community? No? Okay, and I see Elena. I'm going to unmute you.
Thank you.
Hi.
This question is for Troy. I'm representing Mount Carmel Baptist Church, which is across the street from the property. I wanted to know, you didn't represent like a timeline for construction if you decide to move forward with building on the site. And we have a particular interest in the timing of the selling of the site because that, we have some parking arrangements with Quadrangle with that. But do you have a timeline with when construction will begin if all things go well?
Good question, Elena. I would say right now that construction will probably not start until early 2022 at the earliest. And I'm very familiar with the parking arrangements that are in place between Quadrangle and Mount Carmel Baptist Church. And we're looking forward to building new spaces across the street very soon.
Great. So if the property sells, will stakeholders like us be notified?
Absolutely.
Yes, sir.
And in fact, I believe our partners have been in touch with Ms. Thornhill earlier this week.
Great. Thank you.
Okay, any
Question.
other? Go ahead,
Yeah,
Frank.
question. What happens if you start to build, you dig it in the ground and the buildings, what happens if the property sells while you're building? What happens then?
Troy. Troy.
The building would not be subject to a sale or offering during construction.
Okay.
But once we commit to starting construction, that's the path forward.
Okay.
Any other questions from the community? Press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. This is about 953rd Street. They're asking for relief for the residential only cafe in the penthouse. Nope. Okay. No other questions. All right, since Kevin's gone, I'll go ahead and make this. It's just the one relief, right?
That's it.
Christopher and Troy, is that
Yes,
correct?
ma'am.
Okay,
Yes, ma'am.
so let me just see if I got, so for resident only cafe in the penthouse of a new multifamily building. Period, right, Christopher?
Yes, ma'am, that's correct.
Okay.
Just the one special exception.
Okay. So I move that ANC 6E support the special relief for 953rd Street Northwest for a resident-only cafe in the penthouse of a new multi-family building. And we communicate this to BZA. Any questions about my motion? No?
Friendly amendment, can you amend it to special exception relief? You think
Sure.
you didn't say exception?
Yep. Do I have a second?
Second?
Okay, Alex seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Frank, Denise? Oh, Denise is, okay, Denise is aye, okay. All ayes, okay, great, motion passed. Thank you, Christopher.
Thank you
and
very much.
Troy.
Have a great evening. We
Okay.
appreciate it.
Thanks.
Okay, so Talib, did you come back? Did you call back in? Press *9 so we can see if you called back in on the phone number. Talib from the mayor's office, *9. No, okay. Okay, so next we have first of two concerning their liquor license. The first one is Electric Kool-Aid, 512 Rhode Island Avenue Northwest. And I'm going to mute Ben. And I'm going to mute Alex. Go ahead and mute yourself. There you go, Ben. And then this is in Alex Lopez's area. Alex, you want to say something, Alex Lopez?
Yeah, sure. So Electric Kool-Aid has been open for a number of months through the pandemic. They, at this point, they've been good neighbors. From everything I've heard, I've talked to a couple residents whose property immediately abuts or across the alley from Electric Kool-Aid, and they don't have any concerns with the substantial change that Mr. Schwartz will be discussing this evening. I don't have anything else to say. I'll just kick it over to Mr. Schwartz to introduce his proposal.
Thank you, Alex. We are looking to extend our hours on the weekdays until midnight and on weekends until 2 a.m. We are also seeking an entertainment endorsement to be able to do events such as trivia nights. We've been a very good neighbor. We feel like we've been very open and communicative with all our neighbors. We've put in, we've taken special precautions to make sure to do noise abatement, put in a steel fence that keeps noise in. With these very difficult times for restaurants and bars, we feel the best way forward for financial sustainability is with expanding our hours.
Okay, Alex Padro.
Thank you. So Electric Kool-Aid is one of two outdoor-only facilities in ANC 6E's jurisdiction. The other is Dasha Beer Garden. So outdoor facilities have a number of disadvantages to adjacent property owners, and primarily that sound from the operation can travel into the homes, and it's almost as if you're in the outdoor space. For that reason, ANC 6E has chosen not to grant any hours later than 10:30 a.m. During weekdays and midnight on weekends to such outdoor facilities. It's important to note that when the applicant first applied for their ABC license, ANC 6E did protest the license because we felt that it was important to constrain the operation to the hours that I described, and also that there should not be an entertainment endorsement because that would only add additional noise that could potentially be disruptive to residential neighbors. And we spent $7,500 on legal assistance. So we actually were represented by legal counsel. And the result was that the ABC board did decide to restrict the hours of operation to the ones that are currently in place, 10:30 p.m. During the week, midnight on the weekends, and denied the entertainment endorsement. So further, there are only two facilities in all of ANC 6E that operate outdoors after midnight. One was a result of paperwork snafu. The other one was an experiment with an establishment that had no windows in ANC 6E facing the establishment. Unfortunately, neighbors across the street ended up having several years worth of problems trying to constrain the noise. And we spent years with Dasha Beer Garden trying to get it to a point where the neighbors could coexist. But all that having been said, the ABC Licensing Committee did vote 4-1 to support the application for the substantial change. So just to understand that if you do approve this, this will be the only outdoor-only operation that will be in operation after midnight. And you can expect that there could easily be a deluge from other licensees, looking for the same consideration. Hey, it's a pandemic. We need to make money too. We want to be open until 2 o'clock in the morning, and we have dozens of outdoor operations that currently cease their operations at midnight, which potentially could generate some substantial disturbances to adjacent neighbors. That's all.
Okay, Ben, you wanted to say something to that?
I was just curious if Mr. Padro is speaking on behalf of the ABC committee or as on his own.
Yeah, I think a lot of what Mr. Padro had to say was his own opinions and did not at all reflect the recommendation of the ABC committee.
Yeah,
the ABC committee did discuss this, and we actually looked to another summer garden that operates within 6002, which is El Techo, which has hours of operation that are allowed by ABRA that are the same hours of operation that are being pursued by Electric Kool-Aid. El Techo also has an entertainment endorsement, although the types of entertainment, the types of events that Electric Kool-Aid is interested in doing are limited to live trivia nights, which I assume would not be taking place late at night, rather than amplified music or live music or anything like that. So I think that it is the ABC committee was persuaded that Electric Kool-Aid has taken measures to abate noise. Noise has not been an issue raised by any of the neighbors. Electric Kool-Aid has never had a noise complaint. One of the neighbors who originally was very opposed to this business pre-operation has actually come around. Mr. Leroy Thorpe, a former ANC commissioner, has come around and says that they've actually been good neighbors, and he does not find any reason to oppose the change in operation that's being proposed here. So I think that persuaded by the fact that there's an existing summer garden just down the street, with similar operations and hours of operation and endorsement, and the fact that the lack of opposition from neighbors and lack of any issues, noise complaint issues, the ABC committee did recommend by a vote to 4-1 to support this substantial change.
So clarification, of the numerous complaints and years of problems with noise complaints from neighbors, completely enclosed its rooftop, which is the summer garden, which was previously removed.
You're talking
And
about
the comments that I offered were to be informative to the commission as a longtime commissioner and the chair of the committee.
Alex, were you talking about El Techo, for the rooftop?
Correct.
Okay. So I lived through the dacha, right? And I have to tell you that was pretty horrific and pretty awful. And I would not want the commission to go through that again, or the neighbors. I know, Ben, that you have had, I've been there. I think you guys have wonderful establishment, and you certainly have done good things up to this point. But I mean, that is a concern.
I think you're trying to compare us to Dasha.
No, I don't want to compare. I'm just saying, when we had that experience where neighbors did once it started, the neighborhood complaints did not stop. And
Sure.
so I don't want that to happen for your business, because that was bad for Dacha or for the neighbors. We don't want to turn this into something that just goes downhill so horrible.
But believe me, I have no intentions of any of that taking place. Dasha seems to be an instance of a group of people that were not considerate of their neighbors. We went into this whole project from the very beginning. Another difference between Dasha and the owners of Dasha and myself, I am a constituent and homeowner in ANC 60. I live half a block away from Electric Kool-Aid. I am one of the neighbors. So anything that reflects poorly on this neighborhood reflects poorly on me. I'm a little taken aback by Mr. Padro's outspoken opposition, considering his role on the ABC committee, which voted 4-1 in support. I did not feel like that was conveyed the support of the ABC committee and the neighborhood. And I don't feel like we should be punished for other businesses' sins. It's actually pretty standard hours throughout the whole district is what we're asking for. We're actually asking for less than what is standard.
And let me ask Alex Lopez, do you feel that enough neighbors are aware of this is going to take place?
I will say there is going to be a placarding period. So this is step one. Once we get support from the ANC, then we will submit our application and enter into a placarding period, in which gives us another opportunity for neighbors who can then protest.
So Alex Lopez.
Yeah, as I mentioned, I've done a little bit of outreach. I've talked to 2 of the neighbors whose property immediately abuts. I haven't talked to everybody, all the residents, but it was striking for me to hear that, especially somebody like Mr. Thorpe, who initially had protest this license, has his view of this establishment has taken a 180, and although he won't support it for religious reasons, he does believe them to be good neighbors. He does believe them to be kind of good stewards of his block, and he did not express any opposition when I explained to Mr. Thorpe the nature of this substantial change.
Yeah, my only thing is that I want it to just go south when what other people realize. And and I think, Ben, you have a great establishment, don't get me wrong. I think you guys have wonderful establishment, but once things happen, man, it's hard to recover with the Abra situation. So any other commissioners have concerns or questions?
Well, I would just like to quickly clarify that when Dacha was an issue, there was a building, a multi-story building across the street that looked directly down over it, correct? And the noise issues were in part due to the neighbors who were within earshot. I mean, if you've been to Electric Kool-Aid, or if you know the neighborhood, or if you just drop the little guy on Street View on Google, it's not a similar landscape. There are no high-rise buildings nearby. It's mostly single-story, or multi-story, but single-family residential households. The density is just clearly a different deal. So the sheer volume of people who might complain is just drastically smaller than the Dacha situation is. Personally, I think that Electric Kool-Aid is an asset to the neighborhood, and it activates the corner, and it provides additional eyes on the street. And I'd love to see what it can turn into after the construction of the DC water project is done and all of that disruption is cleared out. I do think that you could learn some lessons from the Dacha experience on your own, understanding umbrellas that may keep sound in. Clearly, you already have the walls up that provide us a sound barrier. It sounds like you're doing a really good faith effort to ensure that that you are part of the community and not trying to fight against it. And I would be happy to support your proposal. Thank you.
Okay, any other questions before I open up to the community? No? Okay, this is about Electric Kool-Aid at 512 Rhode Island Avenue for a substantial change in their Class C liquor license. Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature if you want to make a comment. Anyone? Going once, twice? Okay, all right. Alex, why don't you go ahead and do the motion?
Yes, I move that ANC 6E support the substantial change to the alcohol license for Electric Kool-Aid, and that our support be communicated to Abra.
Any questions about the motion? No? Okay, do we have a second?
Second.
Michael seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
One nay.
One nay from Frank, okay. All right, thank you, Ben. And Alex, both Alexes, thank you. Thanks for zooming in, Ben. All right, next we have in my area, 209 New York Avenue Northwest. This is Andy's Carryout, and I saw Mr. Chun. There's Mr. Chun. I'm gonna mute you. You have to, oop, where'd you go? You have to unmute yourself. See it? I see you. Just unmute yourself. There you go. Hi, how are you?
Fine, thank you.
Good to see you. So this is in my single member district. This is Andy's Carryout, and they're looking for a renewal of their Class B license. I love Andy's. Great place for wings and fries. But go ahead, Mr. Jung, if you want to say anything at all, would you like to say anything?
No, ma'am.
Okay.
Everything fine.
Okay, great. And Alex Padra, where'd you go? There you are.
Yeah, still here. Yes, so the committee did review the history of the establishment. There have been no enforcement actions taken in the last renewal period, and the committee did recommend that the commission support the renewal of this license.
Great. Any other concerns or questions from the commissioners? No. Any questions from the community? This is about Andy's. They're at 209 New York Avenue for their license for their renewal for their liquor license. Press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. No. Okay, we love Andy's, and always support your small independent businesses. Andy's and the barber shop heads up over there are the only thing going on the 200 block New York Avenue. So keep going, Mr. Jung. You're doing a great job. So let me do the motion here. Let me see here. Okay. I move that ANC 6E support the renewal for Andy's Carryout located at 209 New York Avenue Northwest for the renewal of their Class B liquor license, and that we communicate that support to Abra.
Thank you.
No, you're welcome. Any questions about the motion?
Oh, no, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll second.
Okay, so Alex seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Frank.
One nay.
Frank's a nay. Okay, everyone but Frank's an aye. Okay, Mr. Jung, I'll see you. Okay.
All right, thank you so much. Have a good evening.
Okay, bye-bye. Make some
Bye.
wings for me. Bye-bye. All right, next, so we have Mr. DeFrank coming. Mr. DeFrank, where are you? Press *9. Mr. DeFrank, are you there? You're next. This is for the Department of Transportation about their accomplishments.
Hi, I'm here.
Oh, there you are. Good. Okay. Let me bring
How's
up your
it going?
presentation. Welcome. How are you?
Good, thanks.
Okay.
My name's Andrew DeFrank, and I'm the District Department of Transportation's Ward 6 Community Engagement Specialist, and I'm here to share a brief presentation about some of DDOT's 2020 accomplishments and 2021 goals, sort of refamiliarize folks with some of DDOT's services and sort of the agency generally, and then take some questions. So I'm going to share my screen.
Oh, wait a minute, Mr. Frank. I think I lost yours. Hold on one second. I had yours. Hold on. I apologize. Hold on.
No worries. Can I not? I can't share my screen?
No, you can't. No, I found you. Hold on. Oh, gosh. There we go. Hold on. 1 second. Sometimes jumps around on me here. Here we go. Perp. Doop. Doop. Ta-da.
Great. Okay, so you'll drive.
Yes, sir.
Okay. Well, like I said, my name's Andrew. You can go to the next slide.
Okay. Oh, not working.
So I'm not going to read through everything on the presentation, but just a quick recap of some of the important things that happened at DDOT in 2020. As I'm sure you saw, Frederick Douglass Memorial Bridge, the new bridge, the arches got built. If you haven't been down to Navy Yard, it's a really nice sight to see. We lowered the default speed limit in the city down to 20 miles an hour. And I'll talk about it a little bit later, but something that, is obviously an important legacy of 2020 is all of the COVID related programs and projects we launched this year to try and, support social distancing and, health and support our businesses as well. And I also wanted to flag that we have a new director, Everett Lott, who previously was our deputy director. He's taken over in the interim now that our previous director, Jeff Meridian, has taken a job in the Biden administration. Some of the highlights from Ward 6 in 2020. Obviously, you all are familiar with the fact that the New Jersey Avenue Northwest project is now substantially complete, and sort of the major changes have happened. We installed a car-free lane, which is effectively a bus lane, down on M Street. It's not in this, but it should. Oh, sorry, we're talking about Ward 6, right? So M Street Southeast. We installed a car-free lane. I'll talk about that program a little bit more later. A couple of new protected bike lanes along the corridor were installed, and we also launched an advisory bike lane project on Capitol Hill that we're really excited about. It's sort of a new way to try and introduce bike lanes and sort of safe streets to the ward. You can go to the next slide. This is a really comprehensive and a lot to look at once overview of what DDOT does. But I think, if anyone wants to screenshot it for future reference or something, I think it's interesting and sort of maybe helpful to sort of thinking about how to navigate the agency. Obviously, safety is, sort of our number one priority, and there's a lot of different programs that fall sort of directly under safety specific, actions. All of the roads, sidewalks, bridges, tunnels, etc., that we manage fall under, infrastructure and assets. Move DC is the program that runs a lot of, physical things we operate, like the circulator, the DC streetcar, Capital Bike Share, bikes and stations. You all, obviously, as we just got through, we're all familiar with public space and curbside management, permits, parking regulations, all that kind of stuff. Next. You can keep going.
Okay.
So in response to the public health emergency and COVID and everything, there are a couple programs that we launched that are worth sort of highlighting. Car-free lanes, like I mentioned earlier, are effectively bus lanes, although sometimes they're also open for use by trucks or bikes. And the goal was to speed up bus commutes for those bus riders who were still traveling and commuting this year because they were essential workers or otherwise couldn't telework, things like that. We installed three of them in 2020, and we're really excited about more routes that we're going to be able to announce in 2021.
Great.
The slow streets and street view programs were both pretty high profile and visible this year. As you all may know, the Slow Streets program, the goal was to basically create neighborhood-based safe social distancing along sort of local roads that already had low traffic by discouraging any through traffic by putting up these barriers that you see on the screen there. And then the street view program obviously has been the goal to sort of expand businesses outdoor dining to help them continue to survive with the pandemic going on. And obviously that program has been really well received across the country in lots of different cities, and we're really excited to sort of think about how we can expand it and keep it going beyond the pandemic. This is a pretty quick overview of sort of current projects that are happening in Ward 6. Not necessarily being constructed, but at least being designed. On the left column sort of goes over major capital projects that our infrastructure and project management division is running. Those are projects that cost multiple millions of dollars. Involve moving curbs and redesigning entire corridors of a street. Some of the ones that are relevant to 6E here, I'm looking. Florida Avenue Northeast is not in 6E, but sort of it's not far away. The S Street Northwest revitalization, I know everyone here, at least the commissioners, are probably familiar with. The Dave Thomas Circle, otherwise the Florida Avenue New York Avenue intersection project, otherwise known as the Dave Thomas Circle project, is here. And then on the right side, you see protected bike lane projects. The vast majority of these we're doing sort of with cheaper materials, sort of. They're a much shorter timeline from design to construction, and you can see some of the the major ones here. K Street Northeast Northwest runs through 6E, and construction on that is going to get started very soon, probably later this month. So I can also answer questions about that afterwards. Keep going. Very quickly, Move DC is the district's long-range transportation plan. That basically means the sort of 20 or 30 years from now vision of what the city's transportation infrastructure should look like. And we're doing a big 2021 update to what it is. Right now, it's sort of running on a 2014. That was the last time it was sort of updated comprehensively. So I'll share the link to take surveys on Move DC, so you can sort of give your feedback on what you think should be prioritized, as we look forward to the next 5, 10, 20 years.
Great.
Just a quick reminder to always use 311 when submitting requests for any number of DDOT issues. On the next page, you'll be able to see all of them. But just a quick reminder that whenever you're reaching out to me about an issue, it's best to have a service request that you got when you created a 311. Here's, I think, something that's really helpful for folks to look at. This is basically the amount of time we sort of anticipate it takes to close a 311, a service request, based on what the issue is. So as you can see, tree planting can take 500 business days, just because that's the amount of time it takes for us to basically get through all those requests and all the other work the forestry team is doing. Whereas, a traffic signal issue takes 2 business days, because obviously that's sort of, immediate safety concern that has to get looked at. But I think anyone wants to screenshot that, sort of save it for later. I think it's helpful for setting expectations about DDOT services. We're getting to the end here, but PaveDC website, I'll also share a link to this in the chat. This is basically the website that you can see what roadway resurfacing, sidewalk restorations, alley repairs, and other new markings installations DDOT's going to be doing in the upcoming year. This gets updated usually in March of the year, and then basically, from March to November, the teams are basically doing this work. So right now, what you're seeing on your screen is what the website looks like now, basically showing the completed 2020 plan. It'll update to the, substantially not completed 2021 plan in a couple of weeks. I don't have the exact date yet, but once that happens, you'll basically be able to see what the plan is for 2021. All these segments you see in green right now are completed, but when it's the 2021 plan, they'll be red because they haven't been completed yet. And as the teams go out and do it, you'll be able to see how the work progresses. Quick reminder about the traffic safety assessment process. I'm not going to read through all these steps, but generally, if you're a resident, I think most commissioners by now are probably familiar with the process. If you're not, you can always reach out to me and talk about it, but residents should work with their commissioners to have their TSA requests, signed off on so that DDOT can begin them. And there's my contact info. And that's it. Yeah, happy to take questions.
Well, Mr. Frank, I don't have to talk to you now because I talk to you all the time. And tweet you.
Yes.
So, but I think the concern from my consistency is the length of time things take. And that's, we get it, but at the same time, it's like things get into the DDOT black hole and they're forgotten, the sidewalk repairs, so that's why I feel like I'm sometimes annoying, but maybe it's justified.
Yeah, well, as you know, my job is to help make sure there's nothing in that black hole, and that anything that sort of gets closed without action or is taking too long to be responded to, is sort of checked in on, and the resident or the commissioner gets a substantive update. So, as always, let me know when those things happen, and I'll try my best to. Yeah.
Can I have your number, Mr. DeFrank? I was trying to write it down, but I missed it.
Oh, sorry. Say again?
Can I have your number?
My number, yes. I actually don't know it off the top of my head, so let me.
It was on the screen a few seconds ago, but I didn't flash by.
202-603-4550.
Okay.
I
reported.
Go ahead, Frank.
Now, I reported a tree was so rotten that I'm afraid it's going to fall on somebody's personal property and damage cars. And I reported it 6 months ago, and I keep getting the email saying, is this ticket still open? I'm like, yes, it's still open. The tree is still there. So I'll reach out to you and send pictures because I'm really concerned about this tree falling. It's a pretty tall tree, but it's not in my SMD. So I'll reach out to you via email or call you.
Sounds good.
Any other questions from Commissioner Michael?
Yeah. Hey, Andrew. Good to see you again. I as you, similar to Rochelle, I talk to you all the time too, but I don't want to miss an opportunity to just provide you with some feedback on the presentation that you just gave us and some bigger picture issues that I think myself and my neighbors would like to know that DDOT is thinking about and working on. First off, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit. I really don't see that that's really doing anything, especially considering, right here on 9th Street, actually around the corner from where we both live, there's a 20-mile-an-hour speed limit, and half a block away there's a 25. Like, there doesn't seem to be a consistency of implementation of these signs, and there's clearly no enforcement. So I'm just really concerned that that it's just for show and that there really isn't anything going on there. Secondly, the bus lanes, appreciate that we're rolling out the red carpet for buses, but it really disparages them to allow non-buses to use them during off-peak times. Like if you're rolling out the red carpet, that should be a 24/7 bus lane. Otherwise, cars don't ignore, they'll just ignore the red paint. It's there for, it's supposed to be a bold and compelling reason. So allowing, private vehicles or parking in bus lanes off-peak and weekends seems backwards to me, especially since the roadway is less constrained during those off-peak times, and we should be reserving those lanes for buses at all times. Also, the Slow Streets program, I think there's a lot of opportunity for improvement. What I see right now is that it's causing conflicts between neighbors. You go down the block and someone pulls the sign and they drag it to the middle of the road and somebody else drags it to the other place. And I know that you guys have gone and put markers on the roadway where the signs are supposed to go. And I try to put them back on those markers whenever I have the chance to do so. But I really hope that if you are serious about slow streets, that we do it in a way that is effective, does not cause traffic accidents when cars turn right into them, and does reduce conflicts between neighbors instead of creating conflicts. Also, we have a long-term recommendations for traffic safety improvements along S Street in Northwest. And yet there are short-term improvements that are part of the package that we can't get done. We need a four-way stop at 5th and S. Why is it that we have to bundle these important safety improvements into a longer-term project when there are clearly short-term items that we could be implementing immediately and creating a safer neighborhood for our neighbors? I'm curious about your timelines for SLA. Noting that there are certain issues such as traffic or parking regulation signs. When they're broken off by a traffic accident, there's a jagged post sticking up out of the ground, which is a safety issue. And I think that if we can fix potholes in 3 days, we should be able to also fix these jagged signs that are poking up out of the ground in a handful of days and not 120 days, which is what the current SLA timeline is for traffic or a parking enforcement sign, at least when the last time I submitted one. And then also I just wanted to ask, is there an easy way for neighbors or ANC commissioners to get a history of the traffic safety assessments that had been performed in the past so that we can easily review them and check on their statuses? I know that the 311 databases have recently been released on the Open Data website, but it's one full year of 311 requests all in one file, and it's like 300,000 records per file, and fishing through multiple files of multiple hundreds of thousands of rows just to pick out SLAs is arduous and perhaps challenging for people who aren't as savvy with data. So I was just wondering if all of these things you can talk about offline with me or provide me or the group at a later meeting. But
well, a lot of them I think I have like a quick response. So I'm just going to run through a couple of them. We're updating all of the 25-mile-an-hour speed limit signs on local road. Basically, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit sign, the 20-mile-an-hour speed limit applies to all unsigned roads, which basically means all local roads, non-collectors and minor arterials. I can also show the link that shows that map in the chat. There are many local roads that are signed for 25, but are now 20 because of the change, because they're local roads. We're obviously it's taking us a number of months to go through the entire city and comb through all of them. If there's any locations that you see have a 25-mile-an-hour sign that needs to be updated to a 20, let me know and I'll make sure the team is aware of it. Bus lanes, I hear you about off-peak hours versus full time. We are starting to go back to bus lane projects that we did a couple of years ago, specifically the H&I Street Northwest bus lanes and improving them. I believe on one of those two roads, we're going to have 2 lanes that are red once we get that update out. So obviously, it's a step-by-step process, and we'll appreciate feedback on phase 2 of the other bus lane projects when we eventually get to that, I'm sure, in a couple of years. And that can include timing changes and things like that. Now I'm losing the train of thought, but we can definitely follow up.
Yeah, sure. I mean, if you want a real quick reminder, the slow streets, the issue with the SLAs for like parking enforcement signs that may have been snapped off.
So slow streets, I'll also share the link to the feedback form so folks can, submit their feedback about the program. We finished installing the sort of initial routes, and now we're going back and trying to tweak the existing ones to make sure that they're operating as best they can. As for safety issues related to service requests that have a long service level agreement, like a jagged metal something coming out of a broken parking sign, that's why I exist. Please forward me those, and I'll make sure they get addressed much faster than they might if they're sort of thought of as just kind of like, oh, it's a missing sign, but there's actually a safety sort of a specific safety issue involved.
Thank you.
Okay, any other commissioners? Patrick, Denise?
Hey.
Yeah. Oh, go ahead, Patrick.
Oh, thanks. Hey, Andrew, it's good to have you here. I just have two quick ones. I'm interested in the progress on the K Street bike lane, and then on a specific resolution we had sent to DDOT about 4.5 Street being converted to a one-way southbound. I sent you a note about that. It was a few weeks ago though, so no worries if that's not fresh in your memory, but just a quick update on those, please.
So K Street Northwest / Northeast protected bike lane, which will run from 7th Street to 1st Street Northeast, will start construction. We've already installed signage related to the project because we can do that in the winter. We're basically just waiting for a good week of warm weather to get going on the markings. So my goal is to give commissioners as much of a clear timeline as I can when basically it develops, because obviously there'll be temporary restricted parking, and then of course the protected bike lane itself will change the nature of K Street. So I don't, the most I can say right now is probably mid-March, but as soon as I know exactly, I've reminded the bike folks many times to tell me exactly when they know when they'll start. And then the 4.5 Street 2-to-1-way conversion, I'm getting the ball rolling on that. Basically what has to happen is with any request to convert the street from 2 to 1-way or vice versa, we need a traffic safety assessment and a ANC resolution, which you all have. So now the safety team will basically begin their assessment process for whether that's a good idea or not, and that'll take some time. But once that happens, they'll be able to communicate that by basically closing the assessment. And obviously, I'll respond to the resolution as well.
Thanks very much. Appreciate it.
So, Mr. Frank, let me just tag on to what Patrick said. I mean, I think, what's very interesting, and certainly Alex Lopez has these concerns too, is the time frame for all these resolutions we have is just crazy how long. And, I don't know, maybe I'm just, or is there really a time frame?
For resolution responses?
For all these requests that we put in,
so traffic
safety kind of float around for a while.
Yeah, so traffic safety assessments can take, in normal times, can take up to 4 months, per the SLA, to basically get to the assessment. There's a ton in the queue, and so basically, when it gets to the top of that queue, the Ward 6 safety staffer, whose name is Salam, she's great, we'll get in touch with me if she needs to, if she has questions about the request and things like that. But it can take a while between the questionnaire being sent to that email address and then basically her kind of opening it and being able to kind of like actually start assessing it, because she's in that time working on other locations. As for resolutions and responses to them, I'm doing my best to continue to kind of work through the long backlog of unresponded to resolutions. I believe when I started, there were ones dating back to 2016, and now I just checked while I was waiting to go on here. I think we've only got 2 left in 2019 that I need to respond to, and then we're in 2020, and so it's just, I'm just digging out of them. So look out for more soon.
Alex Lopez.
Yeah, I'll be brief. Andrew, I just wanted to, having now worked with 2 DDOT Ward 6 liaisons, I just wanted to compliment you on, I think you do a really wonderful job keeping us informed about what's going on in DDOT and setting expectations appropriately about when we can get responses and what is achievable. And I know that you are currently covering 2 wards, and I know that Councilmember Pinto wants you exclusively for Ward 2, but we really want you to stay in Ward 6. So I hope that that happens. You mentioned, so I just want to say, so I want to say about this responsiveness, Andrew and I actually had a call the other weekend where we went over all of the resolutions that the ANC had passed since I started the TAC back in 2019. And I need to summarize that and circulate it with commissioners, because there's a lot of really important updates. And I just appreciate you doing that with me.
Just jump in quickly. I think, you know, obviously a formal response on letterhead to a resolution, you know, is required and needs to happen. But oftentimes I'll be able to give you a sort of a, you know, soft kind of half, you know, over phone email response earlier, just because, you know, getting a signature from the director or something like that, you know, maybe takes more time than actually finding out the answer to your question, right? And so, you know, always feel free to ask me sort of, you know, in between, and I can try to sort of answer things even if the formal response hasn't come yet.
Yeah, and last thing, I could help you identify 2 25-mile-per-hour signs on local roads on 5th Street Northwest between L and M.
Okay, yeah, if you could email
just
me.
north of New York. Yeah,
yeah,
there's 2.
Yeah, they may be sort of on the list that still needs to get to be, that the team still needs to get to, or they may, you know, there's always a chance there could be ones that didn't make it. So.
Okay, before I turn over the community, any other commissioner questions for Mr. DeFrank? All right, so I see you, John Shaw. You've had your little hand raised up for a while. I'm going to unmute you. Go ahead, get to unmute yourself.
Yes, there. Andrew, it's great to see you. It's
You
been
too.
a long time I've had a chance to visit. This is John Shaw from Wilperger. One issue, I have 2. One is there's a resolution that passes full ANC prior to Alex being on the transportation committee, and that was a traffic and safety study around the Howard Theater, streets and sidewalks a block all the way around, the new buildings that are going up with very, very minimal, if hardly no sidewalk at all, the plans for the commercial building that's now called the Adora. And so I just was wondering if this resolution is even further lost than the ones that you and Alex had a chance to work on.
So that one, it's familiar to me. I remember it. I think I may have responded to it, but I can't be sure. So if you send me an email asking that question, I can follow up over email when I have a chance to, like, just, you know, go back and check.
Sure, because the neighbors on Wilperger are interested in what's going to happen. I mean, things are pretty slow right now, but they're going to pick up hopefully very soon. And the other issue is that being between 2 wards and then on the edge of ANCs, a lot of issues kind of don't get really focused upon. And one is really the intersection of Georgia Avenue and Florida Avenue, and a couple of blocks in each direction, all 4 directions. And this was emerging prior to the COVID. This was emerging kind of really as a major commercial street for all the neighborhoods in what, you know, is now being called Shaw North and Shaw East. And I just was wondering, you know, this apparently is falling outside or just on the very margin of the near Northeast safety and mobility study. And I'm just wondering if there's any attention that's going to be focused on this particular intersection. I know our ANC did have a resolution regarding Florida Avenue between Georgia Avenue and New Jersey, and then ANC 1B followed that by a resolution that was very similar.
Yeah, so first, that intersection of Georgia and Florida, Obviously, that's not in Ward 6. I don't know anything about that intersection specifically. Thinking in sort of a couple blocks south and east, which sort of reach Ward 6. The S Street project is going to be sort of not doing anything to 7th Street itself, but is sort of running through there. The Florida Avenue. Well, actually, sorry. Let me first off, I would say that I don't know any specific requests for changes to that intersection, but something that comes to mind is the fact that there's going to be, as far as I'm aware, a lot of development happening basically on the northwest corner of that intersection up Georgia a little bit, and so community benefits agreements and development review, of those projects might be a good opportunity to sort of see if the developer of that building wants to get into streetscape improvements or anything else like that. I know that's something that when there isn't necessarily a DDOT project happening, that can be an opportunity to sort of ask for smaller improvements. And then the Florida Avenue Northwest resolution, I'm preparing a response to that right now, and Commissioner Lopez, you may have gotten my my closure of the traffic safety assessment associated with it. So it's important to remember that traffic safety assessments really are only for specific safety issues happening on 1, maybe 2, maximum of 3 contiguous blocks. They're not intended to be a substitute for much larger projects like a streetscape redesign, like we saw in Florida Avenue Northeast. Those projects take several years of planning and construction. They're multi-million-dollar projects. Traffic safety assessments are handled basically with with signs, paint, flex posts, and sort of are intended to kind of be much more targeted in their size and scope, both in terms of location and kind of the possible solutions they can propose. So the resolution response is going to effectively say that we don't have any plans for something larger on Florida Avenue Northwest right now, and that traffic safety assessments for Florida Avenue Northwest should be submitted basically with specific intersections or blocks in mind, not the entire corridor. And they're not going to be able to address things like wider sidewalks or adding protected bicycle lanes, but they will be able to address things like possibly turn hardening or the theoretically raised crosswalks. I'm not saying that's going to happen, but I'm saying that's something that they can assess. So that response will be coming hopefully soon.
Okay, we have the last question. Co-host Marcus has a question. I'm going to unmute you, Marcus. You can unmute yourself. Marcus. Marcus. Marcus.
Hi.
Hi. Yes, we can hear you, of course.
Sorry about that. Hi, Andrew. I just wanted to kind of piggyback on some of the issues that might have fallen to the black holes specific to my neighborhood where I live. So on the 1200 block of 4th Street, there's 2 major issues that's driving all of the neighbors crazy there. One is that we have a gigantic manhole that looks like it's opened up on the sidewalk. It literally is almost like knee deep, where the brick has fallen underneath, and it's been there. And we've all sent in requests for the last 3 years, and nothing has been done to fix it. It actually sits right in front of an Airbnb that gets visited frequently on the blocks. So I'm just afraid because it's so close to the curbside that it's one step into your like halfway into the hole. And so that's one issue. We also have a couple of areas in the neighborhood where the roots of trees that have been there have raised the brick on the sidewalk, which actually makes it difficult if you're not paying attention of tripping, especially if there's inclement weather out there. That we've submitted tickets about that. And thirdly, our main concern is that we've spoken to the police department. I know that everyone is like rang Rochelle's phone and reached out to her about this ongoing issue. But if someone can come out to really try to assess the traffic pattern in regards to the 1200 block of 4th Street, street gets, it's a one-way street. In the middle of the street, we have Riggs Street. But we get, during rush hour traffic in morning and evening, we get cars coming from New Jersey Avenue speeding down the one way. There are records of us reporting this to the police. The police came out and actually wrote a series of tickets with them only being present within 10 minutes of people running down 4th Street trying to get to the 3rd Street tunnel. It's only, and that street is a very small street. It's only a matter of time that a neighbor is coming out to get inside their car or getting out of their car, or car is turning from either direction on M Street onto 4th, or a car is turning off of Riggs Street to where they will collide with a car speeding down 4th Street. So the police department has pushed it back on to the DDOT, saying that it needs to be, the traffic pattern needs to be assessed so that you guys can fix that. But those are the issues that I just wanted to throw on to the bandwagon of outdated. Very outdated.
So if you could,
Wait, Mr. Frank, let me just bring up, Marcus is not aware of what has been bantering between yourself, me, and Ben, another Ben, the past week, and the interim director. So what Marcus mentioned about 4th Street is my constituents' traffic assessment request that we've been talking about over email. That is what.
Yeah, I was going to mention that.
Yes.
So first off, with the hole and then the tree root issues on sidewalks, if there's any if there aren't any 311 service requests for any of those, make sure to create one and always attach photos. If there are already and they haven't been resolved, feel free to email me feel free to email me with the service request number, and I can see what's going on with it in our system. And next is, yes, the traffic situation at 4th and M. I used to live on Ridge Street, so I'm very familiar with the area and kind of what it's like in the evening rush, especially on M Street. Someone is, as Commissioner Nigro mentioned, someone has submitted a traffic safety assessment that covered many blocks, but as I sort of went over, we can only really do these traffic safety assessments in a more targeted way. So this assessment is going to focus on 4th and M, and basically the 1200 block of 4th, and then whatever the block of M is, just west of the intersection of 4th and M. M Street is a collector road, which means that it's supposed to carry more traffic than a local road, like for example Ridge Street, or the 1200 block of 4th Street, which is a local road. So for example, speed humps are probably something that could be considered on the 1200 block of 4th Street, with likely needing an ANC resolution in support of that, to try and slow traffic down. There are signage improvements we can make, and maybe some other markings improvements we can make as part of the traffic safety assessment process.
Question.
Thank you for that. Some of the neighbors have actually sent in pictures of cameras that because the traffic is coming the one way. So I don't know how a speed hump will it'll slow it down a little bit, but something drastically needs to happen, because they're speeding down the street.
Yeah, and that is a problem with one-way streets. I'm sure that 50 years ago that was not a one-way. That was not a one-way street.
It was a two-way. Yeah, it originally was a two-way street. Yeah.
So we went over the process for requesting a 2-to-1 way or vice versa conversion earlier. If you want to submit an assessment for that specifically and get the ANC to support that change, we could assess it.
So Mr. Frank, we're gonna carry this conversation, further, with the director, because as you know, my constituent Ben had a very revolutionary request that we feel you blew us off. So we're going to continue this conversation because his, and I'll share it with you, Marcus, later, that it could help solve many problems, but we'll continue this conversation.
But I think, I should say, because of the new, like I said over email, because of the New Jersey Avenue project, we're probably going to want to let the new situation settle a little bit before we, go back and start changing how cars are getting around in this, really complicated little area.
No, I told you how I feel about it. So, okay.
Real quick question. Does DDOT ever respond to sinkhole requests that develop on a sidewalk? Do they ever respond to those?
Yeah, most of the time what's referred to as a sinkhole is they have different words for it, but basically I think the way to think about sidewalk depressions, right, is either it's being caused by an underlying utility issue, or there's something sort of just below the surface that can be sort of filled in and fixed. And so what happens is, if you send me a location that is like an immediate safety concern, I will send it to both the public space inspections team and the street and bridge maintenance team. The public space inspections team will frankly look at the photo and see if most of the time they'll send somebody out to basically check to see if it's a utility issue first. And if it is, then it's the utility company's responsibility to sort of fix that underlying issue, and then fix the sidewalk. If it's not, then DDOT's sort of quick fix team can kind of go out there and make the area safe. Maybe not necessarily, perfectly repave the brick or whatever, but sort of make the area safe, and then longer term we can go back and fix the whole sidewalk.
I'll be emailing you some things.
Okay, great. All right. Thank you, Mr. DeFrank, for zooming in. We appreciate your time and your due. Oh, well, Michael, do you have a question? Quick question.
Oh, well, I just wanted to thank Andrew for coming. I did have one more question for Marcus, or maybe for clarity. Are we saying that cars are speeding the wrong way down the one-way street?
That is
part
what
of the
we're
problem?
saying.
Okay.
Yes.
So it's not just that they're using the one-way street and those tend to be faster. It's they're actually going the wrong way, right? So this is clearly a problem. One solution could be to make it a two-way street again, and then you've got conflict in a narrow, make it narrower, make it a WUNRF, where you've got, navigating wiggliness. Anyway, I just want to thank you for coming. And I know that, sometimes I can ask some tough questions, but you take it like a champ, and I'm happy to work with you on these things further. I'm looking forward to it.
All right. Thanks, Mr. DeFrank. Talk to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Bye. Okay, so next we have DOEE. We have Jennifer. Jennifer, raise your hand or press star. There you are. There you go. I'm going to bring up your press. Hi, Jennifer.
Hey, y'all. Good evening, everyone. Thank you so much, commissioners and community of 6E, for giving me some time to highlight some of our energy assistance programs at Department of Energy and Environment. As Rochelle mentioned, my name is Jennifer, and I'm an energy program specialist at DOEE. And I know that we're tight on time, so I'm just going to be providing a brief overview of our 8 energy assistance programs. And one item that we're really asking community members to help us with is, a lot of these programs, folks may not qualify, or they may not need these services, but many neighbors do. So if you can help us spread the word, share information, so then we can help the folks that need it, that would be great. Okay, so 8 assistance programs. Rochelle, let's get started. Okay, so first up is LIHEAP, the Low Income Home Energy Assistance Program. This is a one-time benefit anywhere between $250 to $1,800. Right now, during the public emergency, utilities are not shutting off services at this time. So right now, our emergency benefit is open for folks who have participated in LIHEAP, but they've noticed that their bill has gotten above $250. I also want to note that while folks are applying for LIHEAP, we'll also get them signed up for the utility discount program. So LIHEAP is that one-time payment, while UDP is a monthly discount. Next slide, please. All right, I also wanted to highlight PEPCO's amazing areage management program. So this program is specifically for those LIHEAP clients who have participated in regular LIHEAP, they've participated in emergency LIHEAP, but that minimum balance is still above $300. So please reach out to PEPCO to receive more information on that. All right, the next program I wanted to discuss is our Clean Rivers Impervious Area Charge Relief Program. So a few years ago, in an effort to clean up the Anacostia, DC Water added an additional surcharge onto all of the DC Water bills that have impervious services on those properties. So the good news is that DOEE has a relief program for this. The average reduction is about $60 a month that can be reduced off of that DC water bill. I also want to note that during the COVID-19 pandemic, we're also providing emergency water bill assistance for up to $2,000. So to apply for that, folks will just include their water bill within their LIHEAP application. All right, next slide. Okay, so I'm going through a lot of programs right now, but I just wanted to briefly focus on income eligibility. So this is 60% state median income. So this is based on the median income of all of our wonderful residents in the district. So this is essentially the opening for becoming involved in all of our programs. So this is the income eligibility for LIHEAP, UDP, that area management program that PEPCO runs, as well as our weatherization assistance program and our emergency mechanical system program, which I will speak to right now. Thanks, Rochelle. Okay, so this is probably my favorite program that DOEE has. The weatherization assistance program is actually closed for FY21, but we will be accepting applications come October 1st. So just a little bit about this program. Again, once folks apply for LIHEAP, that opens up the doors to participate in the weatherization assistance program. With this program, we come in, we conduct an energy audit, and then install specific measures based on the needs of that dwelling. Next slide, please. All right, so the weather's kind of getting warm, but it's also kind of cold. We're in a weird place. The emergency mechanical system program is open, and this is for repairs or replacement of HVAC equipment, specifically for single family home owners. So two things are needed to participate in this program. First, of course, we need the applicant to apply for LIHEAP, and then we need a red tag stating that the system is no longer working, as well as a contractor's estimate, just to give us an idea of how much money should be sectioned off for the specific HVAC item needed. And similar to our weatherization assistance program, we have all of the grantees and contractors on board. So the DOEE team will come in, take care of everything, and be out of the home. Next slide, please. Okay, the lead pipe replacement assistance program. A few summers ago, if we recall, we saw a lot of lane closures because DC Water was updating all of the public space piping to non-lead materials, which is great. But what about private property? So the lead pipe replacement assistance program helps property owners complete their lead pipe replacement. The great news about this is that there's no income limit here. Depending on the income, DOEE can either cover 100% of the cost or up to $2,500 of the cost. So if, let's say that you're not sure if your property has lead pipes, you can go to just search lead map, DC Water, and you can type in your address there. I think we have two more programs. Thanks everybody for bearing with me. Okay, the lead reduction program. This is specifically geared towards families or households with children under the age of 6. So the great thing about this program is it's open to women who are expecting, so expecting mothers, grandparents, aunts, uncles who have children under the age of 6 visiting their household for 60 hours a year. So that's really just a few weekends a year, and they could qualify for the lead reduction program. And then the last bucket, of course, is for the 6-year-old to be in the resident permanently. So just really briefly, okay, thanks. She's like, back it up. Okay, last program, Solar for All. Solar for All aims to bring the benefits of solar energy to 100,000 low to moderate income households. This is specifically for this can be for, essentially there's 3 buckets for eligibility. You need to be a district resident, you need to fall within the income guidelines, and you need to have a PEPCO bill. The average amount of savings here is about $500 annually. And you can participate in LIHEAP, UDP, Solar for All, weatherization. You can participate in all of these programs at once. Okay, I think I'm almost done. Thank you. Oh, we can skip this.
Okay.
Just a brief overview of a visual of the different income requirements. So as mentioned, this 60% state median income is for all of our programs. And then as we go up, the only program that does not have an income limit is a lead pipe replacement assistance program. I know I just threw a lot of information at you. Please feel free to contact me at jennifer.culp, KULP @dc.gov. And thank you so much for taking the time.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer. Any questions for Jennifer, commissioners? Anything? No? Okay. Okay, open up to the community. Anything for Jennifer from the Department of Energy and Environment? Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. She had a lovely presentation. No questions. Okay, Jennifer, good to see you. Take care. Thank you for coming. All right, bye. Okay, bye. So next we have Pepco. I see Jamal, where are you? Press *9. Oh, there you are. You gotta mute yourself. Got it.
Can you hear me now?
I can hear you now. And so in transparency, I do work for Pepco, and Jamal's going to give a lovely presentation here. So hold on, let me get your presentation up.
And also, could you unmute if Peter Edge from Smoot Construction and
Ed
Stephen
Marcus, who is it? Peter Edge, and who's the other one?
Stephen Hoskins from CW and Sons.
Okay, wait.
I don't see them. Can they raise a hand?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Raise your hand or press *9. Who's Danielle Quarters? Is that?
No.
Okay. Say the names again.
Peter Edge with Smoot Construction, and Stephen Hoskins with
Peter.
CW. Yeah.
Peter and Stephen, press *9 or use the raise your hand function.
I think you got Stephen.
I did.
You got him.
Okay, is Peter on?
Don't see him.
No. Okay.
Oh, under Danielle Quarters. Stephen is under Danielle.
Oh. Okay. There we go.
Yeah, sorry, I couldn't change. That's my wife's name.
Okay.
No problem.
At least you weren't a
Hi,
cat.
This is Peter Eggy with Smoot Construction.
Okay.
All right. Okay. All right. Well, good afternoon or good evening, everyone. My name is Jamal Jordan. I'm a public affairs manager with Pepco, and we're giving you an update on our Capital Grid project to ANC 6E. You can go to the next slide. Statement with our COVID, we have taken several measures as we complete critical, reliable work where our customers live. We have developed new protocols for our crews. They can incorporate social distancing and other safety practices on top of our usual practice. We have also been asking customers through emails and social media messages to please keep a safe distance from our crew when they are working near their homes. You may also notice signs on our trucks with this reminder. Next slide. Construction of the new substation. Next slide. And with Mount Vernon substation, as you guys know, with the Mount Vernon Triangle, and Noma and surrounding areas are experiencing residential and commercial growth, as you guys can imagine. Currently, we have 18,000 residents units and more than 10,000 square feet of retail and office space are completed in progress or are planned for these communities. But also the Mount Vernon substation will address the new demands and growth put on the grid as Pepco continues to provide safe, reliable, and affordable energy to these communities. Next slide. And I was gonna let Peter take it from here.
Evening, everyone. Thanks. Name is Peter Eggy, I'm project executive with Smoot Construction. We are going to be your neighbors for the next 2 years, and I'm sincere about that. We know construction can be a challenge for all of us. We plan to be as minimal of a intrusive neighbor as we can. So we want to give you a quick, brief update of what to expect and when, in general terms, and it is our anticipation that we give you guys updates through Jamal and others regularly, so you can anticipate what's coming. Right now, we're in the process of mobilizing. What you see here is a rendering behind the church where the substation is going to go. The area that was once the farm has been cleared and prepared to be material storage area, where we'll have our construction trailers and equipment and material as we build the substation in the lot between L First and K Street. Between now and April, we plan to mobilize, install our sediment erosion control requirements per DOE requirements. We're going to do pre-construction surveys. So if there's any people in adjacent buildings, we'll be assessing the kind of the properties. We'll be putting in noise and vibration monitoring. That'll be installed in the next couple of weeks. We'll get our baselines, and then we use that to track scientifically if we're causing any issues or being louder than we should. Again, we're trying to be good neighbors. And we're going to do some investigation work in anticipation for starting up construction in earnest in May. If you go to the next slide, please. So the next phase of construction, we'll be installing the foundations of the substation. Since all the power is underground, the vault and electricity comes in the basement. That's going to basically, I'm sure you guys are all used to this plenty building around you. We'll be putting the piles in. Then we'll be putting in the lagging between those piles to allow us to dig down. It's about a 25-foot excavation. We see about 10 to 20 dump trucks in the first week. And then we'll start bringing in tractor trailers, which will have the lagging and the steel to support the new foundation work. Go to the next slide, please. We'll then do the structure. So we'll do the foundations from August, basically through the summer months. We'll be working below grade to put the foundations, the concrete walls in, and the basement. Then coming the fall, we'll start putting up the steel structure. This is going to be a steel one, not concrete, which you're all probably more familiar of seeing. And then we start wrapping it in the late fall. We'll start putting prefabricated precast panels up. So you'll see a large crane come on and start erecting the facade of the building with the brick already installed on the precast panels. That's going to take a couple weeks. That'll bring us into through the winter. About this time next year, March, April timeframe, we plan to really have the envelope of the building completed. At that point, we'll then go put the utility equipment inside. So that would be all the electrical gear. And then we'll be inside doing a lot of testing. There's a lot of electronics and components that make this system work. But a majority of that work will be inside. While we're doing that work, we're putting in the hardscapes, the pervious concrete, the bio gardens, the drainage and the sidewalks and the fence and things of that nature. So it's about 2 years worth of work, a year of very visible activity, and then really 9 months to a year of us working on the inside. So again, we hope to be communicate with you all often, let you know what's coming, so there are very little surprises as much as we can. Smooth Construction has done a lot of work in down DC. We are a CBE. Our office is in DC. Many of us live in and around the district. We are here as neighbors and will be your neighbor in your neighborhood. That's all we've got from Smoot.
All right. And building the network of systems, can we go to the next slide? As we're building a network of systems, as you can see, we're connecting our capital grid with multiple pathways where we have our Tacoma, Harvard, Champlain, and also connecting to our new Mount Vernon substation that we just heard about. And we can go to the next slide. And this is a capital 10-mile transmission route where we're going through the middle of the city, starting from Tacoma, going all the way down to Waterfront. We can go to the next slide. And I was going to, Stephen Hoskins on? Okay. All right. Well, I'll go with our construction schedule for the Mount Vernon site, as we talked about with January 2021 through the winter of 2023. Mount Vernon substation to New York Avenue, First Street, spring of 2020 to summer of 2021. And then Mount Vernon substation to New Jersey Avenue and Massachusetts Avenue, spring of 20 to summer of 2021.
And Jamal, this is Steven. I was able to unmute here now.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, no problem. So you just touched on the schedule, and I think if you want to go to the next slide, it has kind of more of a graphical where those areas are. So we've been working is if you've been in and around where the future Mount Vernon substation is going to be, some ongoing work of installing a portion of the 10-mile transmission line coming into the north and southern sections of Mount Vernon. So we're currently completing work at First and K. We actually hand tunneled underneath K Street as we tied into the substation. So you've seen work on First Street and I Street and a little bit on New Jersey. And then we also have work leaving the substation starting at First and L Street Northwest, heading north. I've been coordinating with Toll Brothers, have their development there over off of in that corner of First and L to North Capitol and M Street. So we've been coordinating with those activities, but we expect to be up to New York Avenue by probably mid to late summer and working to cross New York Avenue in the summer months of 2021. And then also working south on New Jersey Avenue towards Massachusetts. I hope to be there as well by summer 2021.
Okay, and we can thank you for that, Stephen. And with stakeholder engagement, we're committed to keeping awareness among our local and federal partners, maintaining close working relationships with our residents and businesses through our project phases, receiving input of affected neighbors through community meetings and presentations just like this, providing project information and updates, including construction location and hours, and sharing information via project website, listservs, etc. We have virtual office hours on Tuesdays and Saturdays. We have a dedicated phone line, 1-833-CAP-GRID, which is 227-4743. And we have an online www.pepco.com/capitalgrid, as well as an email, capitalgrid@pepco.com. Now, with the section with our Capital Grid transmission line, we have a dedicated community relations coordinator, which is Ms. Shamira Edmonds, which is her phone number is 202-643-3148. And her email is sedmonds, edmonds@cwsons.com. And then we also, for the Capital Grid Mount Vernon substation site, which Peter Edge has we have his information right here, where Peter Edge and his phone number 202-243-6688 and email pedge@srsmoot.com. And these are the two primary contacts he's the primary contact for the Mount Vernon substation site, and with our transmission work, Ms. Shamira Edmonds, with our community relations. And we can go to the next slide. We have upcoming virtual meetings. We have our Mount Vernon Substation Community Advisory CAG meeting, which is going to be March 18th. And then we also have our Mount Vernon Substation Virtual Community Meeting, which is scheduled for March 22nd, 2021. And go to the next slide. And thank you. And we can open up for questions.
Okay, commissioners, do you have any questions for Jamal about the Capital Grid or about the Mount Vernon substation? Patrick, anyone?
Yes, this is Alex Lopez. Jamal, have you been in contact with Commissioner Kevin Rogers? I think that he had some questions about parking restrictions that I think were related to Capital Grid around the Severna on K Street.
Yes, we haven't been in communication with Commissioner Rogers. And one of those things is noticing with parking and making sure where, we have our site. And Peter, you can tell me if I'm wrong, but we're monitoring. We understand that parking is crucial and critical around that area, but we also want to make sure that our areas are safe where we're doing our work. So we've, if we need to notice 72-hour parking restrictions, we'll notify community of that, but we'll be working inside our substation site.
Thank you. I just wanted to make sure that you were in contact with Commissioner Rogers. And second thing, how are you coordinating with DDOT around the installation of the K Street Northwest protected bike lane that should be going in this spring? I know that DDOT has not always been the best steward of bike lanes and the public rights of way, so I want to make sure that you are doing it right with any work that you have to do on K Street.
Oh, with our DDOT, we have continued on our team. Our team is meeting with DDOT weekly and bi-weekly about our projects in coordination with their projects. So we're in constant communications with DDOT as we're working in similar areas.
But the bike lane on K Street is one of the items that you're coordinating on.
Yes.
Just want to confirm. Okay.
Yes. Sir. And other DDOT projects that are in the vicinity.
Any other questions from the other commissioners?
No.
Nope. Okay. Open up to the community. This is for Pepco for about the Mount Vernon substation or about the Capitol Grid. Press *9 or raise your hand. Use the raise your hand feature. Yep, there is a question. Go ahead and unmute. You have to unmute yourself. Hi. Person that has their hand raised, you have to unmute yourself. Okay, maybe not. Okay, I'm sorry, you have to unmute yourself. Okay, any other questions from the community about this? Well, do one more time to this phone number. Sorry.
What is it? *6 to unmute?
Yes. *9.
*9.
Or star. I can't remember what they hear though. Okay. All right. Sorry. Phone number. Okay. Thank you, Jamal, for the presentation. All right. Thanks for zooming in.
Thank you for everyone for the time and have a good evening.
Take care. Bye-bye. All right, here we go, folks. Now, Alex Lopez.
Yes. Okay. So great. So the Transportation Advisory Committee met a week ago today, and we discussed two things. First, I want to give a quick update. We received a presentation from about the DC Baltimore maglev train, and the Transportation Advisory Committee will be reviewing the draft environmental impact statement for that project and providing recommendations to the ANC at the next meeting. If there are residents on this call who are interested in helping conduct that review, please reach out to me. My email is 6EO2@anc.dc.gov. And now onto the agenda item. The TAC also discussed the DDOT Near Northwest 3 safety and mobility study and drafted a letter, which I shared in advance of the meeting with the commissioners. The safety and mobility study is, just by way of background, is DDOT's latest study as part of the livability program. And the livability program has created 9 studies since 2009. The study that this ANC references quite frequently, or at least I do, is the Mid-City East livability study. Livability studies in the past have typically been very kind of robust and comprehensive documents that combine short-term recommendations, so things that could be implemented quickly, longer-term capital improvements, modal improvements, so improvements to bus and bike infrastructure, especially, and pedestrian infrastructure, and green infrastructure. So things like bioretention, bioswales, stormwater retention. The Near Northwest 3 study, which is the most recent study in this program, is much narrower in scope than a traditional livability study. And the Near Northwest 3 study is focused exclusively on short-term interventions, tactical interventions, as they're calling them. Things like turn hardening with flex posts, or sidewalk extensions with curb extensions with flex posts, and left turn hardening also with flex posts, and installing high visibility crosswalks. This is represents, as I said, only a portion of what a typical livability study entails. Additionally, the Near Northwest study is taking an intersection approach by identifying 40 intersections within the study area for specific tactical treatments, which I mentioned. And the TAC, some of the members of the TAC, especially myself and Commissioner Eichler, have some concerns about this approach, namely that it, rather than taking kind of a whole of area view or a corridor approach like a typical livability study, this study bypasses that and goes directly to intersection interventions, which are not, we don't believe it's sufficient to really create kind of sustained and real meaningful safety improvements in our area. And then the second issue is that DDOT has not made a commitment through the Near Northwest study to make permanent any of the tactical safety improvements that are recommended through the study. So what we're likely to see is, flex post curb extensions, which are helpful, and it can actually be a very key component in a longer term strategy to addressing safety. You could put the flex posts in, you could see if they work. If they don't work, you could adjust them. It's a lot more flexible than pouring concrete. But at the end of the day, you have to transition from flex post to concrete at some point. And DDOT has no commitment and no plans to do so. And so what we're likely to see is that after some years' time, maybe after a year's time, the flex posts will be hit by cars. They will be, we'll be talking at the Transportation Committee and like, remember all these great intersection improvements that are all gone, and DDOT hasn't done anything to make them permanent. So in response to what the Transportation Advisory Committee sees as some very critical deficiencies with the Near Northwest study, especially within the context of all the great livability studies that we've had in the past, we recommended that the ANC adopt a resolution. And I'm going to read the three kind of be it resolved here, just for the other commissioners as well as the public. The first is, be it resolved that the scope of the Near Northwest 3 safety and mobility study is narrowly focused on tactical improvements to intersections and therefore fails to meet the high standards of previous DDOT livability studies, which have included recommendations for long-term corridor redesigns, modal improvements, and green infrastructure. So that's one. Second, be it further resolved that ANC 6E believes that transportation safety and mobility must be planned for at the neighborhood and corridor level, and that the approach of the Near Northwest 3 study and safety and mobility study to recommend spot treatments at 40 intersections will not achieve real improvements to transportation safety and mobility. And third, be it further resolved that ANC 6E urges DDOT to commit to making permanent the tactical safety improvements recommended in the Near Northwest 3 safety and mobility study through capital improvements to the physical environment. Permanent capital improvements include, but are not limited to, upgrading flex post curb extensions to concrete curb extensions with bioretention facilities and upgrading flex post left turn hardening with concrete medians for left turn hardening. So that is the kind of the extent and the intent of the resolution. And I will pause for commissioner comments or questions.
Any questions, commissioners?
I would just want to note that I appreciate, Alex, your thorough digging into this, and even as the member of the citizens or the Citizens Advisory Committee for the Near Northwest 3 study, they never presented it in the context of it being a part of a greater livability study program. And just looking now, I'm seeing previous studies and the wealth of information and recommendations that were in those compared to what we're getting now, which is a handful of intersections with flex posts and paint on the street. And I think that it's really a missed opportunity to focus on meaningful safety improvements on our roadways. I think a lot of us are experiencing daily challenges simply crossing the street to get to grocery, to get to worship, to get to library, to get to transit. This study is almost a distraction from the real problem. And I'd like to think that we could get our problems addressed. So I appreciate your tenacious pursuit of this feedback to DDOT.
Okay. Any other commissioner comments? Nope. Okay. I'm gonna open it to the community. This is about the resolution concerning the Near Northwest. I would say the third. How do they say it, Alex?
Three.
About this study. Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. Any community comments? Nope. All right, Alex, why don't you go ahead and make the motion?
All right. So I'm going to make the motion. I motion that ANC adopt the resolution. Do I have to read each part of the resolution?
No, you're just gonna.
Okay, but the resolution on the Near Northwest 3 safety and mobility study, and communicate that resolution to DDOT. And I think that in this case, earlier would be better because they are kind of still in the planning phase for the study.
I'll second it.
Okay, Michael seconds. Any questions about the motion? No. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. There's Frank, Michael. Okay, great. Thank you, Alex Lopez again.
Thank you.
All right, folks, we're heading to the end here. So next we're just talking about some grants for money to for our commission to give away. And I'm going to call on first Hannah. I see you where you are, Hannah. I'm glad you could make it. Yay.
Me too. Thank you so much for having me. I didn't see on the agenda how long you would like and how much you would like me to speak. I know you've been on here a long time, so.
Here's what I want you to do, Hannah, is to just kind of give a rundown of what you want, just very brief, some bullet points, and how much you're asking for. All the commissioners have been given the application, and they were informed about I have the signed copy. I have the signed one.
Okay. Thank you. Thanks so much for having us. I'm here representing Serve Your City and Ward 6 Mutual Aid this evening. Serve Your City was established in 2009 to provide access to spaces, all spaces in our city for our Black and Brown neighbors and youth. And as of last year, was a leader in the creation of Ward 6 Mutual Aid as part of the citywide mutual aid network. And I know I see some folks on here who are members who work on this, because really what this is about community solutions and solutions that come from within the community. So it's very much a grassroots and member-led effort. Member is the word that we use instead of volunteer, because we consider all of us to be a part of this work. This work is about providing much needed supplies, life-saving supplies, including food and PPE and hand sanitizer and everything that someone might need to survive this right now. It's also about the digital divide. So providing laptops, devices, internet to students and families who really, really desperately need it and who are not being served right now except by this. It's also an effort to get public health information out to make sure that it's culturally appropriate health information that we are providing to everyone, including our unhoused neighbors. And I know that specifically, I think some folks on here are part of our mask team, getting masks to people who need them and working with more than 200 of our unhoused neighbors every week consistently, along with our partners. And we partner with more than 40 different organizations within Ward 6 and across the city to ensure that we are really speaking to and hearing the needs of our neighbors, including a hotline that allows people to touch base. So I am here specifically regarding our grant, where we are proposing to continue to distribute food, masks, and public health information to support folks in ANC 6E, to purchase and distribute educational materials, hotspots, Chromebooks, et cetera, and to ensure access to technology and Wi-Fi to maintain their studies. For students, supporting the training and placement of tutors for students in ANC 6E, and printing more culturally informed public health documents, specifically now around the COVID-19 vaccine. So we are asking for $3,000 to cover those expenses, and I am happy to take any questions. Thanks again.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. I appreciate that. And fantastic. Your work in the community is greatly appreciated. The only question I have, and I remember we talked about it briefly. Explain the pod thing, that it would be in our area or not in our area, or this is the part that I'm a little confused about the pod. And then also additionally, how, in terms of the Chromebooks and all that, how are you going to track all that to make sure it gets to the people in our area? Oh, whoops.
Thank you. I shouldn't have muted myself. Sorry. I got too enthusiastic. So I'll start with the devices. So we partner with area schools and other organizations within the community. So that's how we know where those are going. We're also really specific about not wanting anything to be a one and done kind of experience. So it's not like we drop off a device and then that's it. With that device comes information about our tutoring programs, our extracurricular programs, about support for parents and families. So it's really about bringing students into the fold, so we really don't lose track of where those are going. That's a really important part of the work. And then the pod setup is that we have different kind of centers for where we gather food and other supplies to allow for us to organize it better and make sure that we're able to know how much food we have at the Capitol Hill Arts Workshop, for example, or in Southwest. And so we then have an app and an Airtable that's used to say where we need it to go. But that's how the pods work, and that's how we can generally figure out where things are going.
So the pod is coming here somewhere? No.
So no, it's not so much that the pod is going there, it's that the pods, the pods are just central locations where we store, they're essentially storage locations throughout the ward, but we only have a couple. And then we use basically a big Google Doc, but it's an Airtable, which is a little bit more advanced technologically to allow us to track where things are going from those centralized locations.
So our residents would be notified to go somewhere. That's what you're saying.
Yeah, it sort of depends. We have several different ways of getting things to people. Some are deliveries, some are tabling in the community, but we also have a hotline that allows people to reach us, and an email address that allows people to reach out for what they need.
And then you can track that then from people from our community getting stuff from the pod?
Yeah, I mean, the reality, and I just want to be upfront about this, is that we're not going to be able to track every everything and every person, and we probably can't pull out, this is exactly how much went into 6E, because the nature of, in particular, the work that we do with the unhoused and others is just not like that. But we can generally track, we can generally track approximately where things are going. And you know, we know that things in the Southwest pod are probably not going to you, for example, but we know where those things come from that would go to you.
Okay, commissioners, do you have questions for Hannah? Any commissioner questions? Frank, Alex, Patrick, Michael, Denise, there's Denise.
You already getting grants from DC government at all?
No, we have received grants from ANC 6C and ANC 6B, but not from the government, no.
Okay.
Anyone else? Any other commissioner questions before I open up to the community?
Yeah, I just want to say thank Hannah for being here so late with this meeting and for the work that your organization does. I think I'm only aware of probably a small portion of the work that you do in our ANC. But Ward 6 Mutual Aid and Serve Your City have really been a galvanizing force throughout the pandemic to bring people together as neighbors and meet neighbors where they are to provide the critical needs, that whether it's food or PPE or laptops. I've participated with a number of outreach events with residents of the encampment at the park at New Jersey and O Street. And I could say firsthand that mutual aid has very rightly earned the kind of a trust with the community there, and is providing goods and services and connecting people with those services and with information about health and information about vaccines that is desperately needed in this time. So I think that this organization is eminently worthy of ANC 6E's grant and support.
Okay, any other commissioner comments? All right, I'm going to open up to the community. Any questions about this? This is for the grant for Serve Your City / Mutual Aid Ward 6. Press *9 if you're on the phone, or use the raise your hand feature. Any questions? Nope. Nope. Okay, all right. Alex, since you brought this forward to us, why don't you make a motion? And then let me always say there's a caveat, and I'll speak to Frank directly. Frank, we got to send this to Gottlieb Simon tonight.
He has to approve it.
Yep.
Regardless of how we vote.
Yep.
Okay. I move that ANC 6E approve the grant application of Serve Your City / Ward 6 Mutual Aid.
Have a friendly amendment for $3,000.
For $3,000. Accepted.
Okay, do I have any questions about the motion?
Provided it gets approved by the Office of ANC.
Yes, good point. There's, yep.
Also accepted as
Okay.
friendly.
Okay, do I have a second?
Second.
All right, Patrick seconds. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Denise says aye. Frank?
Aye.
Aye. Aye. Great. All right. Thank you, Hannah, for zooming in. So it'll myself and Frank will be in touch with you. Okay.
Thank you all so much. Really appreciate your support and your really kind words. Thank you.
Okay, great. All right, here we go. This is for deeds of kindness. Alicia, where are you? There you are. I see you. You have to unmute yourself. Are you unmuted? There you go.
Hello.
Hi.
How are you?
Good. Thank you for waiting.
Thank you for having me.
So this is deeds of kindness. This is in my single member district. This is part of First Tabernacle. I've had a long relationship with this organization. So go ahead, and if you want to give some bullet points about what the program and how much money you're requesting.
Okay. Hi, I'm Alicia Washington. I'm with Deeds of Kindness Outreach Services. We're a nonprofit organization, been around a while. We service the community monthly pardon me, with meals, toiletries, clothing, peer support, recovery support, many community partners, very well-known partners. Right now, we are attempting to assist the DC public school system and our children in our community with their school needs. We know that they are back in school. We know that COVID has been a challenge, but when we canvassed the residents that we already serve during our summer back to school events, we know that there is a need year round for supplies for students. So where we have many of us that do back to school, that's usually the only event that really meets the needs of these students. So we are attempting to assist with the COVID-19 back to school drive. DC Public Schools has named it the Reopen Strong campaign. And with this, we will be providing 150 backpacks filled with supplies, grab and go style, light treats, various giveaways, but more importantly, we partner with the DC Department of Behavioral Health, the the Psychiatric Institute of Washington, and other partners. We're attempting to distribute literature and other information about mental health awareness and the trauma that really has affected our children. And so we are requesting $3,000 for this. We have a breakdown of how it will be distributed. The ANC 6 will not be the only financial supporter of this event. We do have other community partners who are on board. You all would be providing a portion of it. And if you have any other questions, I do believe you all have the presentation. The evening is far spent, so I don't want to go into it too much, but it would service 150 children. And food, we read the parameters. We are not including food in your request. We will have community partners and other caterers to provide the meals. This would be more of the actual supplies going directly. Oh, and I wanted to mention Plaza West, which I know Rochelle is very familiar with. They are one of our neighboring senior facilities where they actually take care of grandchildren whose parents are either incarcerated, dealing with substance abuse and things like that. They will be one of our major targets. So, and we already service them with grab and go meals, toiletries, and other things throughout the year. So we have a target audience in ANC 6 that we know will come and that we service already.
So yes, all the commissioners were given your proposals, but and I'm very familiar with your relationship with Plaza West, and you guys do a great job with that. But for this particular event, since you're using the ANC money, how do you guys gonna get the word out about this? What you guys are calling us the Spring Fling?
Yes.
Spring Fling.
So we actually, because we host a back to school already, yearly, we already have contacts that we actually can target either through social media or through email and phone numbers. So we kind of have a clientele that's already in 6 walking distance. So, and again, we cannot guarantee all 150 would go, but we can guarantee the majority of ours will. And Plaza West is our first, that's our first marketing target, but most of the people we deal with us monthly anyway. These are people that we know are our community constituents. We deal with them monthly anyway. So we're not doing something that's that would target, although it would target more than 6, they already know every 3rd Wednesday of the month, this is where they come. So we're able to give them the information before the event, well before the event, and target them specifically by name because we have contact information that we've already gathered from previous years.
Okay, great. Any questions from the commissioners?
Do you receive funds from any other DC agencies, government agencies?
Yes, I believe that's also noted in there. We do receive funds, but our funds are program specific. They are for peer services and recovery support. We did receive in 2019, $5,000 from DC Health that was targeted for youth, a health and wellness back to school event. And that was a one-time, one event grant. So we don't have a grant that sustains operations.
So you don't get funds on an annual basis from any DC agency?
We do not.
Okay. Only reason why I asked is because the Office of ANC will not approve it if you get funds from DC government at some level, at some form. So that's the only reason why I asked.
So Frank, because of the public health emergency, that's lifted at the moment.
Okay, that's
We're
fine.
within that time frame.
Okay, I mean, it sounds like it's a worthy cause. I know that's that they have rules in place, so that's fine if they lifted it.
Yeah, that's normally, but we're still in the
pandemic
thing.
Okay.
And I think we could actually fund food, right, at this point.
Yeah, we could do food and that was stated on top of the application.
Well, that would be great because what we found, of course, with young people, that is a draw. What we found is certain demographics, there is a certain appeal for that. We already do some events where we do grab and go groceries. So instead of doing the light treats, we would prefer to do something that's family oriented, that would be more groceries as opposed to a one-time meal, one-time meal. So if that's something we could amend, and we would be glad to do that, because we specifically left out food because that was a part of the requirement you had. But the food piece is a part of our regular programming, and that is what the people we serve expect from us. So it would benefit our program if we could do that.
So I don't have a problem with that. I mean, I think you maybe misread it on top there, but that's fine.
Okay.
So if you can just amend, do any commissioners have a problem with that? No? Okay. Before we
Thank you.
that to Gottlieb.
I will amend
the same amount, the same request
Yes.
amount. Okay. All right.
Actually, I don't know. I think we may, I'll amend it and I'll make it very clear. So
yeah, because what we had motioned tonight would be for the amount of money, so we can't.
Okay. Yes, the 3,000. Yes, the bottom line of 3,000 is fine. Yes.
Okay, so then you can get that to me before we send it into our liaison.
Yes, I can have it by tomorrow's COB.
Okie dokie. Okay. This is my single member district. They do a wonderful job, a monthly job. They've been doing it for years. I commend them. So I move that ANC 60 support the grant application for deeds of kindness for their spring fling with the changes to allow food in their grant application. And the total amount be for the grant application $3,000. And this is dependent on approval by the Office of ANC.
Yes, ma'am.
Any questions? Frank seconds the motion. Okay. Oh, I should have asked. I'm sorry. It's getting late even for me, you guys. So I forgot to ask if the community had anything. Anything? Star 9? No? Okay. All right. So Frank second, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Denise?
Aye.
Aye. Okay. All right, great. We'll be in touch then.
Thank you all so much for your time.
Motion
We
passes.
appreciate it.
Okay, great.
Thank you.
Okay, super. Okay, so this one, the last thing we have to do is an add-on, and the commissioners for all of Ward 6 received an email yesterday from, I can't remember the gentleman's name now, who was seeking a letter of support, or not support, however you want to phrase it, that we do not support the continued fence around the United States Capitol building. So the question is for the commissioners, do you want to do some sort of letter stating that? Hello?
Yeah, I think that's a good idea, Rochelle.
Okay. Alex, Frank, Michael, this was we text last night, Michael.
Yeah, no, I would be in support of that. I would be in support of it. I was actually just trying to flip over to my email so I could see, I believe there was another letter from another ANC
Yes.
that we could just recycle and throw our name on as well.
Okay. All right.
I want to just pull it up and move my eyes over at once so that because I think there was at least one other thing I would prefer to add if we could, but if we want to just rubber stamp it as it is and add our names to that letter as it is, I would be in support of that as well.
We can review it. I didn't read that today. I don't remember. I don't know what they said. So.
Yeah, I mean, if we wanted to just briefly, I had it open and then I closed it. So the resolution basically calls for strongly oppose permanent fencing, request that Independence and Constitution Avenues opened as soon as possible to restore buses to their normal routes, Capitol grounds restored to public access, alternative bicycle routes established to include safe passage around the temporary closures, and then temporary fencing while it's in place, bike and ped detours around the perimeter, including bicycle and ADA accessibility, making sure that the curb ramps aren't covered, and that any permanent measures put in place, that there's the feedback opportunity, including the mayor and the council working with federal authorities. So that's the general crux of it. I believe we probably all have it in our inboxes, and there's a series of whereas clauses that we could, we were all here and lived through all of it, so don't know that we need to rehash those pieces. But
okay, so we can certainly tweak it if need be.
Yeah, I
right.
think so.
I'm in favor as well. I read through it early.
Okay.
I'm sorry, what? I'm looking through my email. When was it?
Do you remember? It was sent last night, and is it Daryl? What was the gentleman's name, Michael?
Dean Lester.
Dean.
But then Kristen Oldenburg from 6B sent along their motion.
And Charles responded. There was a response from Charles.
Right. Does anyone else want me to forward it to you right now, just to move your eyes over it?
Can you forward it to Alex?
I just opened it. I'm looking at it now.
Found it. Okay.
So he CC'd all the commissioners in Ward 6.
Yeah, in 6.
Asking for our support.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think that our support is going to make or break this, but it's definitely something that I believe we should support. Add our voices to the chorus.
Okay.
Sure, I would support this.
Yeah, and we can tweak the. Okay, any other commissioner comments before open to the community? Press *9 or raise your hand. Okay. All right, Michael, since you brought this up last night.
Okay.
Go ahead and make a motion.
I move that 6E pass a resolution that mirrors the resolution of 6B dated February 10th, 2021, describing the negative impacts of fencing around the United States Capitol on local transportation, and that such a letter be communicated to our district council members and the mayor and Eleanor Holmes Norton.
Any questions about the motion? Okay.
Does the 6B resolution say who it is addressed
to?
Eleanor, wasn't it?
It mentions that the mayor and the council work with federal authorities for future permanent security measures, but it doesn't actually say that this is addressed to anyone. It is just a resolution.
Okay, I would offer a friendly amendment to send this to the architect of the Capitol as well.
No problem there.
Okay. Okay, do I have a second?
Oh, I made the motion. I can't second.
I'll second.
Alex seconds. All right, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Yay, Denise. Okay, great. All right, approval of the minutes. I think there were some additions that Karen already has. Any other concerns from the commissioners? Any changes? No? Okay, I move that ANC 6E approve the minutes from February 2nd, 2021. Any question? Seconds, who's second?
Second.
Frank seconds, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Denise, yay, aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. All right, Frank.
Due to the latest in the hour, do you guys mind if I make one resolution, or one motion rather, to pay the expenses, just name them one by one?
Sure.
All right. I move the ANC 6E pay Rochelle Nygrove $28.78 for the reimbursement of FedEx office for the creation of the flyers for this meeting. I move that ANC 6E reimburse Rochelle Nygrove $68.89 for the payment of the Zoom meetings for the month of March. I move that we pay Patrick Parlay $17 for his business cards. I move that we pay Karen Yaley $250 for the maintenance of the minutes and the website.
I'm sorry.
I move that we pay USPS $410 for renewal of the PO box for our address, provided I can get a second.
Any questions about the motion? Okay, no questions. All right. Who wants a second?
I'll second.
Michael seconds. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
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 Denise is, when am I gonna unmute Denise here?
I also want to present,
Wait, Denise?
Aye.
Aye. Okay, motion passes. Thank you. Good, Frank.
also circulated the February checking account statement. We began the month with $50,570.69. We spent $510.89, giving us a balance forward of $50,059.80. There's only one check that has not been cashed, and that's the check written to the ANC Security Fund, which we've had a problem with that for the past
We're
several
not
months.
surprised,
Yeah,
right?
we're not surprised by that, but all other checks have been cashed and processed.
I think we should ding Frederica,
Yeah,
Frank,
I was thinking the same thing, actually. So
Thank you.
I'll reach out to her tomorrow.
over $25.
Yeah.
All right. Okay.
That's it for me.
Okay, great. Thank you, Frank, for your due diligence with Wells Fargo and everyone else on a monthly basis. So, okay, any announcements from the commissioners?
Not an announcement, but since I have Michael's listening ear, can we just connect tomorrow due to the lateness of the hour? All right, I'll text you a time we can connect.
Yep.
Any announcements from the community members? Press *9 or use the raise your hand feature. Nope. Okay. All right. So our next meeting is going to be Tuesday, April 6th, 2021. I move that we adjourn this meeting at 10:28. Oh, Michael, you have something to say?
Second.
Oh, all right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Happy March, St. Patrick's
Thanks.
Day, and everything else that's happening. Okay. Bye-bye, everyone. Thank you.
Bye.
Thank you, Ed and Marcus. Thank you, Ed and Marcus.
Thank you, Ed and Marcus.
Bye.